man was obviously nothing more than the lowest-ranking grunt in the demon race, yet he still dared to stand alone against a human mech army more than 10,000 strong. It was not because he was reckless, but because he had a massive death wish. He had once been humanity's strongest warrior, but now he had become the king who united the demon race. And no matter what anyone tried, they simply could not kill him. Back when he was still just a foot soldier, he even dared to spit on a demon general in public, and even pulled the demon queen into his arms right in front of her own fiancé. Even the evil dragon failed to kill him. The most outrageous part was that the dragon not only failed to kill him, but even rewarded him with a 3S rank passive skill, Rapid Recovery, restoring 100,000 HP every minute. It pissed him off so badly that he could only run to a bar, get drunk, and try to numb himself. The man's name was Sha Fengliao, once humanity's apex predator, and back then he had marched out to slay the mightiest SSS-ranked demon king, Wakyang Beilao. Before leaving, he had promised his childhood sweetheart that the day he returned in triumph would be the day they got married. Under his command, humanity's strongest legion launched a life and death war against Demon King Wakyang Beilao. For the first time in 1,000 years, mankind finally had a real chance to reclaim its lost lands. Sadly, they were utterly slaughtered in the end. With only 2 minutes left to live, the system acknowledged his great contributions to humanity and decided to grant him one chance at rebirth. He accepted it without the slightest hesitation. In the very next second, a voice rang out beside his ear. "Wake up. Don't fall asleep. Their army is almost here." Sha Fengliao shot upright and burst out laughing. "Damn, Demon King, you still think you can kill me? Looks like you're about to be disappointed." But right after that, he realized something was horribly wrong. He was standing in the middle of a crowd of demons, and everyone around him was giving him a sideways look. "The Blue Guild is closing in. If we don't run right now, we are dead meat." Hearing that, Sha Fengliao's mind completely froze. Was that old geezer talking to him? Then he looked into a mirror and discovered that 2 tiny horns were growing out of his head. His face twisted in shock. "What the hell? How did I turn into a demon? You trash system, get out here right now." Wasn't I supposed to be humanity's chosen light? Wasn't this supposed to be rebirth? My gorgeous wife back home is still waiting for me to marry her. So what kind of nonsense is this? The companions around him all thought he had completely lost his mind. The system awkwardly scratched its head. Super sorry. A bug showed up during your rebirth. What kind of garbage answer is that? I want a solution. Terribly sorry, but that cannot be fixed. Sha Fengliao instantly wanted to crush it on the spot and file a complaint. This after-sales service was dog shit. To calm Sha Fengliao down, the system came up with a solution. It would give him one more chance at rebirth. As long as he was killed again, he could be reborn as a human this time. With one condition, he was not allowed to kill himself. After delivering that message, the system vanished on the spot. Right then, a D-rank mage suddenly reported that the Blue Guild had sent 12 people. And among their entire group, aside from the BI family's young lord, no one stood a chance against them. They had to flee through the escape route immediately, because if they were captured, they would be skinned alive. The moment Sha Fengliao heard that, his eyes lit up. He was a demon now. So if humans killed him, would that not mean he could finally be reborn? Without hesitation, he headed straight for the human passage. Everyone thought he had completely lost his mind. But to make sure his plan worked perfectly, he instantly slipped into character. Hiding will never solve anything. I'll hold the humans off by myself. That way, all of you can escape. Just when he thought his wish was finally about to come true, a magic circle suddenly appeared above his head. Then a massive pile of rocks dropped out of it and sealed the entrance shut in an instant. Sha Fengliao was completely dumbfounded. The one who had done it was none other than Liu Bingyi, the demon sovereign's daughter, and she even declared that not a single one of them could be left behind, especially since the 2 of them were childhood sweethearts. Veins bulged across his forehead in rage. That little brat was clearly trying to stop his rebirth. No one was going to stop him from being reborn. So he swung his fist straight at the rocks. Reality answered him with a brutal slap to the face. The rocks did not move even an inch. What a nosy idiot of a woman, he snapped, even as his fist throbbed in pain. Liu Bingyi could hardly believe what she had just heard. This guy had actually called her an idiot woman. How dare you insult her highness? Hey, don't underestimate a man's determination to sacrifice himself. Liu Bingyi suddenly found herself wondering if she had been blind all along. How had she never noticed before that this guy was actually this manly? What's so scary about humans? We're demons, and yet all of you are hiding like cowards. Please, let me die with dignity. His words left everyone there utterly shaken. Liu Bingyi was so moved that her eyes even started to well up, and when she finally turned to leave, she looked strangely reluctant to go. Now, completely unhinged, Sha Fengliao quickly made his way to the human encampment. Come on, babies. If you've got guts, come slash me 9,999 times. The humans froze for a second when they heard that. They had clearly not expected something this good to fall into their laps, and they all rushed him at once. Sha Liao, however, did not dodge at all. Instead, he wore an expression full of anticipation. Rebirth, rebirth. Humanity, I'm coming back. But in the very next second, a rain of arrows suddenly shot toward the humans charging at him. Sha Liao completely froze. The ones who had attacked were actually his demon comrades, and his ridiculous stunt had somehow activated the demon's high morale state. Not only did it boost their combat power, it even triggered a permanent level increase. Sha Liao nearly blacked out on the spot. After the demon sovereign died, humanity kept invading demon territory without stopping. And because the demons never fought back, their ferocity was slowly worn away until, in the end, they all started believing they were born weak. Sha Liao was still standing there in a daze when the old man slapped him on the shoulder. For once, what you said was right, and today will be the day the demon race fights back. The humans were instantly dumbfounded. Misaka, don't tell me these demons actually got pushed so hard they finally snapped? Even Liu Bingyi evolved all the way to A rank, and the humans completely lost it on the spot. Which bastard said their strongest fighter was only B rank? That was an entire rank gap. In the next second, Liu Bingyi raised a massive blazing sphere in the air. Thunderous rumbling echoed out as she unleashed her ultimate move. New Heavenly Fire Judgment! After that attack landed, all it left behind was a giant crater in the ground. The once mighty Blue Guild was wiped out so completely that not even ashes remained. Sha Liao's face completely fell. Not only had he failed to die, he had even leveled up. At that moment, only one thought remained in his head. First day as a low-level demon, and he already wanted to die. Meanwhile, inside the Huo family estate in the demon capital, a demon was respectfully reporting the situation. You are saying the suspension bridge plan failed? The one speaking was none other than Xiang'er Sao, the demon chancellor, and one of the 3 holders of the demon command seals. Their calculations had originally been perfect. Once Liu Bingyi was surrounded by the Blue Guild and pushed into a desperate situation, young Master Wu Jun would arrive with demon soldiers to save her, allowing him to show off unmatched masculine heroism in front of Her Highness, and then, standing atop the corpses of the humans, pull Liu Bingyi into his arms so that, under the so-called suspension bridge effect, she would fall in love with him. But who could have guessed that they would accidentally activate the high morale state and wipe out the Blue Guild on the spot? Rumor even had it that this had awakened the Queen's power. Their plan had been completely thrown into chaos, and now nobody knew what to do next. At that moment, the man who had been sitting silently finally spoke. Military authority is already in my nephew's hands. The speaker was none other than Huo An, the demon general, and also one of the 3 holders of the demon command seals. With the power he holds now, tomorrow he can march into court and force her to marry my son. I would like to see who dares object. Recall my son today. Tomorrow, he will lead troops to court and formally propose. He had said it long ago. That bullshit suspension bridge effect was never reliable. Meanwhile, Liu Bingyi was already enjoying a luxurious pedal bath. Her flawless body was on full display, yet the image she could not get out of her mind was still Sha Liao's fearless, reckless bravery. Then she called over a maid. Bring little Sha to me later. I intend to reward him properly. The maid immediately let her imagination run wild, inwardly marveling at how bold Her Highness really was. Your Highness, I understand. I'll go right away. Liu Bingyi had no idea why the maid looked so excited all of a sudden. The scene shifted, and Sha Liao was sitting alone on a stairway, drinking in frustration when the system reminded him that he still had not chosen his skills or assigned his stat points. The second he heard that, Sha Liao exploded. Who the hell wants to assign stats? If I do that, won't I be even harder to kill? He immediately started thinking it through. He was only D rank right now, so he should still be easy to kill. The problem was that this place was too far from the humans. He needed to figure out a way to get someone to kill him. Right then, the maid came rushing over. Little Sha! Little Sha! Her Highness wants to see you. Sha Liao's eyes lit up at once. Hey miss, perfect timing. Only you can help me now. Kill me. Just do me a favor and kill me. The maid immediately blushed. She had never expected that this quiet guy, who barely spoke on normal days, would turn out to be this wild when drunk. But today is not the right time. You are Her Highness's Little Sha now. Little Sha, in recognition of your heroic performance on the way here, Her Highness has awarded you a first-class Medal of Valor. From now on, you are free to enter and leave the palace as you wish. And in addition, you are being specially rewarded with the Slaughter King set to help you become a true hero. The maid's eyes practically lit up like titanium dog eyes the moment she heard it. That was the former demon sovereign's holy battle attire, something even Her Highness herself had never been willing to use. Sha Liao's face instantly fell again. What the hell use was that supposed to be to him? In a terrible mood, he grabbed the items and turned to leave. leaving both women staring after him in confusion. Neither of them had expected him to stay this calm. Liu Bingyi immediately started swooning again. He really had changed so much. How had he suddenly become this steady and composed? By the time Sha Fengliao stepped outside, another holder of a demon command seal was already waiting for him. The moment that man saw the set in Sha Fengliao's hands, he let out a cold snort. No wonder he had been summoned in the middle of the night, so the divine armor of the former king could be handed to a mere nobody like this. Was not all he did just getting fired up for a moment during the escape? A reward like this should have been granted in front of all the ministers for the whole realm to see. Doing it in secret like some shady backroom deal was completely unworthy of young Master Wu Jun. And then there was him. He had devoted his whole life in loyal service. Yet Liu Bingyi acted as though she did not even see him, never once giving him the slightest reward. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. At this rate, was she trying to force him into Huan's camp? But then, in the very next second, Sha Fengliao casually handed the divine armor over to him. The old man was utterly stunned. What? You're giving it to me? Inside, Sha Fengliao was full of contempt. What was wrong with this old man? He was trying to die, so what use was some stupid gear to him? He might as well toss it to the first random person he saw. Her Highness said that, in recognition of your years of thankless service, she specifically instructed me to pass this divine armor on to you. Please treasure it well. The moment he finished speaking, Sha Fengliao turned and walked away, leaving the old man behind to spiral into instant self-reflection. Your Highness, this old servant has wronged you. Those thoughts I had just now were beneath pigs and dogs. I deserve death. From this day on, I will devote my body and soul to you without hesitation. Sha Fengliao had figured it out now. Getting killed here was basically impossible. These demons were annoyingly united. If he wanted to die, he would have to find another way. Then suddenly, he noticed someone suspicious, and he also overheard that they were planning to make a move tomorrow. In that case, he decided he could afford to stay one more day, and when he learned that they were actually planning to force a marriage proposal at court, he was instantly interested. If he did not stick his nose into something this entertaining, he would be letting himself down. Very soon, the next morning's court session arrived. What Sha Fengliao had not expected was that demon court was this painfully long-winded. Hurry up and get to the point already. Your Highness has observed 3 years of mourning for the demon sovereign, and now that your Highness has returned to the Great Hall, this is truly a joyous occasion. Meanwhile, the human army 100 miles away has remained restless, and thanks to the great general's defense, we have been able to preserve peace in this city. Hearing that, Liu Bingyi also felt the great general had indeed rendered tremendous service. After all, he was a veteran of 3 reigns and had led armies in defense of Yonggu for many years. He truly deserved a heavy reward. The old fox had been waiting exactly for those words. He immediately stepped forward and said, "Since your majesty is so sincere, this old servant does indeed have one request. Wu Jun, come forward. Then I beg your Highness to bestow a marriage upon my son. After all, the two of you are childhood sweethearts." Liu Bingyi froze for a moment when she heard that, and then her gossip radar instantly kicked in. 3 years apart, and Wu Jun already had someone he loved? But in the very next second, the old man dropped a line so explosive that it left Liu Bingyi completely shell-shocked. "Your Highness, please marry my son, Wu Jun." Liu Bingyi had never imagined that the gossip she was following would suddenly land on her own head. "General, please do not joke about something like this. Between Wu Jun and me, there is simply..." Whether she liked him or not was beside the point. The whole proposal itself was outrageous. Huo did not give her any room to breathe. When it comes to the greater good, personal matters must step aside. In 1,000 years of demon history, no woman has ever ascended the throne. Right now, rumors are spreading everywhere, and the people have already begun to lose faith in Yongguo. Once your Highness ascends the throne, unrest is inevitable. But if you marry Wu Jun, that alone will shut all those mouths. A lot of people in court actually started thinking that, damn, he kinda had a point. And on top of that, young Master Wu Jun really was a fine and impressive man. But the white-haired minister thought the whole thing was utter nonsense. The excuse was so flimsy, it was embarrassing. Even Liu Bingyi was momentarily at a loss for what to do. Sha Fengliao, however, instantly realized that his chance had arrived. He grinned on the spot, strode forward, and grabbed Liu Bingyi's hand. "Do not let this old fossil gaslight you. Everyone has the right to chase their own happiness." Liu Bingyi's face flushed slightly at the sudden contact, but she still glared at him. "And just who gave you the nerve to stand here and lecture your superior?" Wei Ming recognized him at once. It was the young man who had handed him the divine armor the night before. "Great General, calm your anger," Wei Ming said as he stepped forward. "This old servant has devoted his life to Yongguo, and as the only great general personally granted a demon seal by 2 demon sovereigns and publicly honored before the entire court, I still urge your highness to think carefully before you answer. Good lord, that was an open threat if there ever was one. And by now, Huoan was already radiating killing intent. One of the guards immediately drew his bow. How dare you! Are you trying to stage a coup? Wei Ming stepped forward as well. Huoan, watch your conduct. Huo, and merely let out a cold laugh. Military power is in my hands. I would like to see who here dares to lay a hand on me. Seeing the atmosphere growing more and more suffocating, Liu Bingyi could only suppress her emotions and speak. Enough. The general does have a point. I will agree. But the second those words came out, Sha Fengliao was the first to explode. No one was going to stop him from dying. He threw his head back and laughed. You idiot woman. And that is all it took for you to cave? Your father's kingly presence did not rub off on you at all, did it? What exactly is there to be afraid of from this guy? Whoa, and flew into a furious rage. You insolent bastard! Since when was it your place to speak here? But before he could even finish, Sha Fengliao spat right in his face. That was public humiliation in front of the entire court, and Huan's rage finally exploded without restraint. And you call yourself a veteran of 3 reigns? Then think carefully for once. Who gave you that military power in the first place? You really think no one can touch you now? At the end of the day, you are just an old cur abusing borrowed power. Take 10,000 steps back. Even then, she is still the demon sovereign, a ruler above all others, and with looks like hers, flawless from every angle. What the hell is your son supposed to be? How is he worthy of her? What kind of garbage are you even saying? In this world, besides me, who else is worthy of her? And just like that, Huolan's fury, which had originally been aimed at Liu Bingyi, was completely redirected onto Sha Fengliao by just a few sharp lines. Sha Fengliao instantly struck a pose, putting on that shameless little grin of his. Of course it's me. To be honest, the two of us already pledged ourselves to each other in that cave a couple days ago. Deep down, he was already thinking that after saying this much, there was no way Huoan would not kill him. In that moment, 2 people in particular had absolutely priceless expressions on their faces, while the entire court erupted into loud whispers and discussion. After all, until now, nobody had even known who Sha Fengliao was. Liu Bingyi, meanwhile, was already moved all over again. For her sake, he was actually willing to go this far. Huo, and was trembling from head to toe, forcing the words out through clenched teeth. You want to die? The second Sha Fengliao heard that, he got even more excited. Come on then, do it right here. If you've got the guts, kill me. You insulted a demon general in public and offended her highness as well. That is a capital crime. Since that's the case, I'll grant your wish today. No one had expected Huoan to open with his ultimate move right away, Soul Fusion. There was not even enough time for anyone to try to save Sha Fengliao. The blow slammed straight into Sha Fengliao's abdomen. But unlike what everyone expected, he was actually smiling at that exact moment. Just wait for me. We're finally going to meet again. That was the fiancé he had been longing for with all his heart. And then, at that very moment, another wave of equally terrifying power crashed in from the side. Wu Jun's eyes narrowed instantly. There stood Sha Fengliao, quietly at the center of the collision, and he still had not fallen. Wu Jun could barely believe what he was seeing. The military demonic power had activated and blocked a fatal blow for him. Then the system notification appeared. Because he had been granted military demonic power, Sha Fengliao had instantly gained 40 levels, advanced into a level 1 demon, and successfully activated the passive skill Defense Enhancement. When his HP dropped below 30%, his defense would increase 5-fold, and he would also gain damage reflection. After being hit 15 times, one attack would automatically be reflected back, and that reflected damage could even crit. Her Highness had actually given him the military demon seal, a seal that a demon sovereign could only use once in a lifetime. Any demon granted the military demon seal represented someone who had earned the demon sovereign's complete trust. Not only would that person inherit the sovereign's accumulated experience and one instance of protection, but from that day on, they would also become a general with military authority. By now, Liu Bingyi had fully entered an exalted state. My grandfather and my father both once bestowed the military demon seal upon you. From that day forward, you commanded the 3 armies and led Yongguo's warriors through life and death. And now, I bestow this seal upon Sha Fengliao as well. From this moment on, Sha Fengliao will be the right general, and together with Left General Huan, he will command the full might of Yongguo's demon army. Huo and was completely stunned. Liu Bingyi really knew how to play this game. She was actually trying to use some bratty young punk to keep him in check. Fine. Then he wanted to see who would dare acknowledge it, and who would dare kneel. But in the very next second, Wei Ming was the first to step forward. Congratulations, Right General. Congratulations, General Sha, on taking command of the 3 armies. Once someone took the lead, the others immediately followed, dropping to their knees one after another in salute. At that moment, Sha Fengliao's mind was nothing but a storm of curses. It felt about as awful as swallowing a mouthful of pure crap. Of course, Huo En was never going to admit defeat that easily. A demon seal may prove Her Highness trusts him, yes. But a man who has never led troops into battle, how is he supposed to command respect? If you truly want me to hand over half my military power, then I will agree on one condition. He has to enter the ancestral demon cavern. Our ancestor was the one true king. Only someone acknowledged by him is worthy of wielding the power of kingship. If Sha Fengliao can clear the ancestral demon cavern, then I will personally offer up the Ice Spring Tiger Tally with both hands. The people who understood the situation immediately jumped up in protest. You scheming old bastard! No one has come out of that place alive in 100 years. This is obviously a trap. General Sha already proved himself just now, and we are supposed to obey the demon sovereign's command. Are you seriously planning to defy another royal decree? Liu Bingyi immediately stepped forward in opposition. That place is known as a forbidden land. Going there is basically the same as going to die.it proves nothing. But Sha Fengliao seemed to latch on to the most important part right away. No one had survived it in 100 years? So that meant going in was basically a guaranteed death sentence. The moment that clicked, he burst out laughing, only more convinced that the rest of them were nothing but cowards. He then raised his hand on the spot in full agreement. The great general is absolutely right. I completely agree. So where exactly is this demon cavern? I'm going. I'm definitely going. The instant everyone heard that, their expressions froze. Some of them even wondered if their ears had stopped working properly. Around 200 years ago, the demon race had faced a catastrophic crisis. To protect his people, the Liu clan's ancestral demon sovereign ultimately sacrificed himself. He sealed his final demonic essence inside a demon cavern, waiting for the next king worthy of his recognition. Yet, in the last 100 years, not a single demon had managed to pass the trial there. But to enter the cavern, at least 2 people had to form a team. Aside from General Sha, who else would dare go in? That was what everyone present was thinking too. After all, only an idiot would willingly walk into a place like that just to die. Huo En let out a cold snort. Then he should solve that problem himself. If he cannot even find one person willing to enter the cavern with him, what right does he have to command thousands of troops? But to everyone's surprise, in the very next moment, his own son stepped forward and declared that he was willing to go. Huo En nearly jumped out of his seat. Who told you to make that decision on your own? Father, do you really think I'm inferior to him? A whole group of subordinates hurriedly stepped forward to dissuade him, saying he absolutely could not do something so reckless. After all, he was supposed to be Yongguo's future. How could he risk himself like this? But Huo Wujun was an exceptionally proud man. He understood perfectly well that only someone recognized by the ancestor was worthy of possessing the power of kings. If Yongguo was ever going to produce such a king, then it had to be him. Hearing that, many of his followers were deeply won over. Old Huo was left speechless. How had his son turned out to be this stubborn? Back at the Huo family estate, the head steward immediately proposed a plan. In his view, Sha Fengliao had simply been coasting on absurd luck this whole time and did not possess any real strength. So young Master Wu Jun should take advantage of the cavern and find a chance to kill him inside. To the steward, young Master Wu Jun was the true favored son of heaven. How could some nobody surnamed Sha be allowed to steal his spotlight? Huo Wu Jun, looking smug as ever, said that he already knew exactly what to do. On the other side, Sha Fengliao's companions were also busy making preparations for him. At the same time, they kept warning him to stay on guard around Huo Wu Jun. Given that man's ruthless and selfish nature, there was no way he would tolerate someone else outshining him. In their eyes, Huo Wu Jun was guaranteed to stab him in the back. After hearing all that, Sha Fengliao was practically blooming with joy. Backstabbing was perfect. That would only increase his chances of getting reborn. Just then, Wei Ming showed up as well, and he had actually come to deliver medicine. Top-tier healing potions, the best in all of Yongguo. He too gave Sha Fengliao a solemn warning, telling him to be extremely careful once inside. Sha Fengliao's whole head practically went numb. He almost wanted to thank their entire families. These people were clearly the biggest obstacle standing in the way of his rebirth. At the plaza before the ancestral demon cavern, Sha Fengliao did not hesitate for a second. He took all the powerful medicine everyone had given him and shoved it straight into Huo Wujun's hands, saying he could have all of it. Huo Wujun was completely stunned by that absurd move. At that moment, the priest asked the two of them whether they were both ready. Off to the side, Liu Bingyi silently prayed, "Little Sha, please don't let anything happen to you." But at that exact moment, no one realized that a demon king destined to change the entire world was about to be born. In the next second, the priest activated the formation. Golden light instantly wrapped around both men. Then, in the blink of an eye, they appeared inside the demon cavern, and with that, the ancestral trial dungeon officially began. Above their heads hung countless invisible talisman ghosts. Huo Wujun spoke first. "I wonder what kind of monsters are hiding inside this cave." The moment Sha Fengliao remembered all the warnings everyone had given him, an idea instantly flashed through his mind, and he spread his arms wide on the spot. "Man, I'm completely wide open right now. I've only got one basic piece of defensive gear on me, and my defense is weak as hell." Huo Wujun was completely thrown off. They had not even figured out what kind of enemies they were facing yet, and this guy was already exposing his own weakness on purpose. What exactly was he trying to pull? Meanwhile, Sha Fengliao looked absolutely pleased with himself, screaming internally, "Kid, I'm giving you my whole back here. Hurry up and stab me already." But this time, he had completely miscalculated. Not only did Huo Wujun not attack him, he instead drew his weapon with full caution written across his face. In the very next second, a blur shot out so fast, it brushed right past Sha Fengliao's body. Right after that, a bat-like monster appeared in front of them. The instant it showed itself, it was killed in a single strike, and that blur from just now turned out to be Huo Wujun himself. Sha Fengliao was completely dumbfounded. This idiot had just passed up a perfect chance to ambush him, but when he looked around and saw the dense swarm of bats surrounding them, he understood immediately. Huo Wujun summoned another flower and faced the gathering ghost bats head-on. In the next moment, that tiny flower burst into countless petals. Then those petals began shredding through the bat, swarm like a storm of blades. While attacking, Huo Wujun said coldly, "You already noticed those invisible bat spirits hiding all around us, didn't you? You deliberately exposed your weakness to lure them out, then left it to me, the strongest demon here, to finish them off. Don't think a trick like that is enough to catch up to me." After hearing that, Sha Fengliao could not help giving him a thumbs up. "Honestly, I've never seen anyone in my life whose imagination works as hard as yours." But Huo Wujun actually thought Sha Fengliao was praising him, so he shamelessly accepted the compliment. Then he charged right back into the monsters and started slaughtering them all over again. Sha Fengliao, on the other hand, just stood there at the side watching the whole show, with absolutely no intention of making a move himself. His original plan had been to expose an opening so Huo Wujun would stab him in the back. Who would have guessed that Huo Wujun would add extra drama all by himself? And imagine the two of them were fighting in perfect teamwork? The result was that Sha Fengliao was now absurdly safe. Huo Wujun would not kill him. The monsters would not kill him either. And honestly, nothing could have been more ridiculously melodramatic than this. The more Sha Fengliao thought about it, the worse he felt. But at this point, he had to lure the monsters over himself somehow. Besides, he still had 480 unassigned stat points. But now the question was, where exactly was he supposed to put those points? And by this point, they had already reached the deepest part of the map. Worse still, from beginning to end, Sha Fengliao had not made a single move. So even Huo Wujun was starting to suspect that maybe this guy did not have any real strength at all and was just a complete, useless fraud. Right then, the dungeon issued a warning. They had triggered a story event, Guardians of the Demon King's Envoys. Challenge difficulty, A rank. Time limit, 20 minutes. As long as they could withstand the siege of the Demon King's Envoys, the stage would count as cleared. And the Demon King's Envoys themselves were A+ misrank monsters. Huo Wujun's gaze sharpened instantly. In the next second, he launched the first attack. A storm of flower petals descended onto the Demon King's Envoy and burst into towering flames. But in the very next moment, disbelief spread across Huo Wujun's face. The flames were absorbed directly by the envoy. Then those same flames were released right back at him, turning into meteor-like fireballs that came crashing down toward Huo Wujun. A deafening explosion rang out immediately after. Yet on the surface, Huo Wujun still appeared completely unharmed. But then, out of the flames, two thorn-covered vines suddenly shot forward. In an instant, Huo Wujun was bound tight from head to toe. The Demon King's envoy let out a horrifying laugh. Huo Wujun was already beyond annoyed. That guy had clearly seen him fall into a disadvantage, yet still refused to move. He really was a completely useless piece of trash. So Huo Wujun had seriously overestimated him before. Meanwhile, Sha Fengliao wore a sly grin. Even he had to admit he was a genius. He had dumped all 480 stat points straight into strength and left defense untouched. As long as he dealt enough damage, he would definitely pull all the monster's aggro onto himself. Huo Wujun still believed he was the strongest one here, and judging from the look on his face, he was preparing to break free by force. In the very next second, the vines exploded into pieces. Then a dense barrage of spikes slammed into the Demon King's envoy, producing a sharp, metallic clanging sound. But Huo Wujun had clearly seen it coming. He simply snapped his fingers. The next instant, a chain of explosions erupted one after another. But in the end, Huo Wujun's assault did not even break through the Demon King's envoy's defense because the creature possessed a damage reduction skill that negated a full 90% of incoming damage. Huo Wujun refused to believe it, but only then did he finally understand what people meant when they said the Demon King's envoy had no weakness. It meant its defense was monstrously absurd. Then, in the next second, an energy ring suddenly locked around his body. Several Demon King's envoys immediately closed in and surrounded him. The moment Sha Fengliao saw that, he knew his chance had finally arrived, and he launched a sneak attack without hesitation. As his fist swelled larger and larger, one of the Demon King's envoys was instantly blown apart in a single punch. The remaining envoys all turned toward him at once, completely giving up on Huo Wujun. Sha Fengliao froze on the spot, feeling like he had swallowed another mouthful of crap. These Demon King's envoys were way too fragile. One punch actually killed one? Was 480 points in strength really this insane? Even Huo Wujun was stunned. With just one strike, Sha Fengliao had blown apart a Demon King's envoy. So that was it. The Demon King's envoy's weakness was actually on their backs. Was that why Huo Wujun had not rushed to attack earlier? This guy had really predicted everything from the start, hiding his strength the whole time just to wait for the last Demon King's envoy to charge at him and expose its weak point to me. Sha Fengliao, Sha Fengliao. You really are getting more interesting by the second. And just as expected, Sha Fengliao successfully became the Demon King's envoy's top priority target. Facing those Demon King's envoys glaring at him like hungry beasts, Sha Fengliao actually let a smile curl at the corner of his mouth. After all, these things hit insanely hard. With defense as low as his, one punch from them would be enough to blow him apart on the spot. Then he even raised a hand and openly taunted them. Come on then. His dream was finally within reach, and he was practically smiling as he welcomed the moment. But in the very next second, that Demon King's envoy was sliced into countless pieces. The one who had struck was, of course, Huo Wujun again. Sha Fengliao was completely dumbstruck. What exactly was wrong with this guy? Did Sha Fengliao dump him in a previous life or something? Otherwise, why would he keep torturing him like this? Meanwhile, Huo Wujun had already built an entirely new strategy inside his own head. So this is your plan. The weakness of these Demon King's envoys lies on their backs. You taunt them and lure them into attacking you, while I come in from behind and finish them off. And because your damage against monsters is so high, the aggro shifts back to you again, making you the priority target of every monster here. Sha Fengliao's whole mind went numb. How was this guy even capable of imagining things this far off base? He was hopeless. He felt like he was about to cough up blood. He had worked so hard to pull the monsters over, only for this guy to drag the whole situation right back to square one. Furious, he shouted, "Get back here, all of you!" But the moment those words left his mouth, he punched straight through the upper body of yet another Demon King's envoy. The whole scene went dead silent. Great. The aggro had shifted again. Sha Fengliao immediately stuck out his tongue and started taunting them even harder. Come on, kill me already. He just stood there quietly, his face full of eager anticipation. But in the next second, the Demon King's envoy charging straight at him got slammed away by a vicious kick from Huo Wujun, leaving it with only a sliver of HP. Then Huo Wujun actually copied his act, turned around, and ran while yelling, "Come on, kill me if you can." Sha Fengliao instantly lost it. Hey, don't run away. Left with no other choice, he could only rush up and throw another punch himself. The Demon King's envoy, already on its last breath, died on the spot. Now only the final one remained. At this point, Sha Fengliao wanted only one thing in the world: for that last Demon King's envoy to walk up and punch him already. At that moment, the last Demon King's envoy had already raised both hands and begun charging up power. The sight instantly filled Sha Fengliao's face with anticipation, but in the very next second, everything changed. That final envoy was suddenly torn to pieces as well. And just like that, every Demon King's envoy was dead. Seeing this, Huo Wujun could not help but sigh in admiration. This combat strategy is absolutely unbeatable. The coordination between the two of us was flawless. The moment Sha Fengliao heard that, he nearly broke down again. Coordination, my ass. Even he had no idea how the two of them had somehow stumbled their way into wiping out the entire group of Demon King's envoys. Huo Wujun, meanwhile, had completely changed his opinion of him. He admitted that he truly acknowledged Sha Fengliao now. Someone with strength like this was indeed worthy of competing with him in the future. But just then, the ground beneath them suddenly began to crack. A booming laugh followed. It has been decades since anyone dared set foot inside this demon cavern. With a thunderous roar, the earth caved in, and then a giant dragon appeared before them. I had thought the younger generation of demons no longer had the courage to challenge the seat of kingship. Congratulations, you have passed the trial. And now, the final challenge begins. Only one of you may leave this place alive. You have 10 minutes. The one who survives will obtain the title of king and the Demon King's reward. Otherwise, both of you will die. Huo Wujun's anger flared immediately. This was forcing them to kill each other. He was the future of Yongguo. There was no way he could stop here. But at the same time, Sha Fengliao still gave him the feeling of being impossible to read. After hearing all this, Sha Fengliao was off to the side, desperately trying not to laugh. This was heaven sent. A once-in-a-lifetime chance to get killed directly. What better opportunity could there be? Then, to everyone's shock, he actually started taking his clothes off on the spot. If only one person can leave alive, then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and make your move. Once again, Huo Wujun was completely thrown off. What the hell was this guy trying to do? Was he deliberately baiting him? Reading the doubt on Huo Wujun's face, Sha Fengliao immediately put on the most sincere expression he could manage. Relax. I'm down to nothing but my underwear now. Just stab me hard once, and the title of king and all the rewards are yours. The new king will be you. The more Sha Fengliao acted like that, the more suspicious Huo Wujun became. What exactly are you plotting? You were this close to success, so why would you suddenly give up now? Sha Fengliao's face twitched so hard it was almost cramping. By this point, he was losing his mind. What? Are you not even a man? If you are, then hurry up and do it. You have already earned Her Highness's trust, taken hold of military authority, and your strength is not weak either. Your ordinary attacks are already enough to kill A-rank Demon King's envoys. If we really fought, I cannot even say for sure that I would beat you. So why are you backing down now? Because Yongguo cannot afford to lose the Huo family. Your father is a veteran of 3 reigns, and he has given everything to Yongguo. And you are the young hero who represents Yongguo's future. As for me, I am just some nameless nobody who got lucky. Compared to your life, mine is worth nothing. For the sake of the entire demon race, I have to die. Good lord, he really did manage to pull it off. Hearing that, Huo Wujun fell into silence, and his mother's old teachings came flooding back to him. One day, you must become a young man who carries the whole world in his heart. Wujun, only when our demon race truly stands united can it become strong. In the next second, Huo Wujun actually pulled back the fist he had already thrown. At that moment, he even felt ashamed of his own earlier thoughts. In his eyes, Sha Fengliao truly cared about the fate of the whole demon race and had already cast aside his own life and death for its future. By contrast, he himself had judged a noble heart through the lens of petty suspicion, assuming that Sha Fengliao was deliberately baiting him into a trap. The two of them were not even thinking on the same level. He was still obsessed with the title of king, while Sha Fengliao was already thinking about the future of the entire demon race. Even the evil dragon noticed that something was off. 2 whole minutes had already passed, and these 2 idiots still had not started fighting. Growing impatient, it barked, "Move already! If you will not do it, then I will do it myself." Sha Fengliao was completely speechless. Hey, just do it already. What exactly are you trying to pull now? That guy already said if we do not kill each other within 10 minutes, he is going to butcher both of us. Seeing Huo Wujun still hesitating, Sha Fengliao had absolutely no idea what was going through the guy's head anymore. But Huo Wujun only looked coldly at the giant dragon. I have another method in mind. I want to try it. He began gathering power, then let out a sharp shout. Scatter bloom! The evil dragon's eyes narrowed at once. Its scales immediately started crackling, and in the next instant, the entire dragon was swallowed by explosions. So you dare break through the barrier? Huo Wujun had now fully entered a state of high morale. In that case, how about we kill this dragon together? The evil dragon burst into wild laughter. What overconfident little fools! But Huo Wujun felt invincible in that moment, his entire body overflowing with explosive power. At that moment, he had gained the boost of assassin-type attributes. Strength increased by 100%, and speed increased by 200%. Sha Fengliao could only let out a helpless sigh. Great, another one of these heroic last-stand lunatics. Why did every last one of them insist on turning something simple into a huge mess? At the same time, the evil dragon was also charging up power, and it was clear that the 2 sides were about to collide head-on. In the next second, a massive dragon breath poured down like a tidal wave. Yet to the evil dragon's surprise, Huo Wujun actually managed to block it. After stopping the dragon breath, Huo Wujun charged again, but the damage he dealt was practically meaningless to the dragon. He quickly realized that the evil dragon's HP pool was absurdly thick and still rushed in once more. Waiting for him, however, was yet another stream of dragon breath. Huo Wujun immediately used Phantom Step, dodging at high speed from every direction. Then he unleashed countless slashes onto the dragon in rapid succession. Unfortunately, against a defense as monstrous as the evil dragon's, all of that barely amounted to scratching an itch. His attacks struck the dragon's scales again and again, producing only sharp, ringing metallic sounds. But when Huo Wujun turned back around, the evil dragon was still there in front of him, perfectly unharmed. In the next second, Huo Wujun's eyes widened in shock as the dragon's tail whipped straight into his face. He was sent flying on the spot and crashed right beside Sha Fengliao. Sha Fengliao knew one thing for sure. He absolutely could not let Huo Wujun die here. If that happened, then Huo Wujun might really end up becoming the king. Just then, the evil dragon began charging up once again, crackling currents of electricity hissing from its mouth. Without the slightest hesitation, Sha Fengliao stepped right in front of Huo Wujun and took the full force of the attack head-on. This had been a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yet even after shielding Huo Wujun from the blow, Sha Fengliao still did not die on the spot. He coughed up a huge mouthful of blood, but in his mind, that was fine. As long as the dragon hit him one more time, he would still die just the same. Watching this, Huo Wujun felt humiliated beyond words. Once again, it was Sha Fengliao who had saved him from a fatal blow. He immediately pulled out a potion that could rapidly restore 10,000 HP pores and slapped it straight onto Sha Fengliao. In the next second, Sha Fengliao's HP bar was filled right back to full, and the veins on his forehead bulged as he roared. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" But Huo Wujun acted as if he had heard nothing. He pulled out a whole pile of different potions and kept throwing every last one of them onto Sha Fengliao. Cloud resistance plus 100, recovery plus 50, defense plus 500. At this point, Huo Wujun had officially become the single biggest obstacle standing between Sha Fengliao and death. Now Sha Fengliao was stacked to the brim with buffs, yet still had to force out a few words through gritted teeth. "Wow, thank you so much." Huo Wujun then downed a strength-enhancing potion himself. Right after that, he entered a state of high morale again and charged straight at the evil dragon. Sparks crackled around the dragon's claws as it stared at Huo Wujun with vicious intensity. Huo Wujun, however, only gave a wicked grin and crushed something in his hand. From that point on, man and dragon began exchanging blows through what looked almost like spatial teleportation. Unfortunately, the evil dragon still had the upper hand. Huo Wujun was struck head-on by a bolt of lightning, and his entire body went numb before he dropped straight out of the sky. Seeing that the evil dragon was about to unleash another dragon breath, Sha Fengliao hurriedly threw himself in front of Huo Wujun once again. The dragon breath slammed directly into his upper body. But after the flames cleared, his HP bar somehow still had nearly half left, so the stacked buffs really had not gone to waste. Then, in the very next second, his HP was filled all the way back up again. Sha Fengliao was so furious, he felt like exploding. "Hey! Are you people ever gonna stop?" Huo Wujun even struck a dramatic pose, giving Sha Fengliao a look that practically said, "I get you now." From that point on, Huo Wujun and Sha Fengliao kept clashing with the evil dragon over and over again inside the cavern, and after grinding away at it for so long, they finally managed to wear the dragon's HP bar down to half. Huo Wujun immediately said, "If we just keep this up, we might actually be able to take this dragon down." But in the very next second, the moment the evil dragon's HP dropped to 50%, it triggered a passive skill, a 3S rank ability called Rapid Recovery, restoring 100,000 HP every minute. Huo Wujun was completely dumbfounded. What kind of insane monster skill was that supposed to be? Even if he attacked non-stop without pause, he still could not outpace the dragon's healing. The evil dragon let out a cold chuckle. "And you weaklings actually dreamed of slaying a god?" The instant those words fell, it unleashed a deafening dragon roar. The shockwave hit the two of them so hard that they were instantly racked with pain. On top of that, as Sha Fengliao's buffs began to wear off, his defense started dropping at a terrifying rate. Before long, both of them collapsed to the ground, and then both of them triggered their near-death state. That state could block one fatal blow, but it only worked once per day. And at the worst possible moment, they had already burned through every last recovery potion they had. The evil dragon began charging power yet again, clearly preparing to deliver the finishing blow. Breathing heavily, Huo Wujun said in a low voice, "We lost." But Sha Fengliao did not agree. Instead, he grinned. "No, we haven't lost yet. Only one person can leave alive within 10 minutes. If I die, then you can still clear the challenge. You can still take the title of king." As he said that, he gave Huo Wujun a light pat on the shoulder. Huo Wujun froze. What? What are you talking about?" At that same moment, the black dragon had already finished charging its attack. This was clearly the final test. In the next second, Sha Fengliao suddenly grabbed Huo Wujun, and from the look of it, he was actually about to throw him out by force. And sure enough, in the next instant, Huo Wujun was launched like a human cannonball, while Sha Fengliao shouted after him, "Live on! The future of the demon race!" Huo Wujun only had time to cry out a single, "No!" Yet in that same instant, a thought flashed through his mind. This guy may be a demon, but he's not nearly as hateful as I thought. Right after that, Sha Fengliao was swallowed completely by white light. All Huo Wujun could do was stand outside and stare blankly. Even now, he still felt dazed and could not understand why Sha Fengliao would make a choice like that. What he did not know was that inside the cavern, the black dragon was laughing loudly. Congratulations! At long last, someone has passed the ancestor's trial. Long ago, your ancestor sacrificed himself to protect the people of the demon race. He placed his most precious skill within this cavern, waiting for the day a worthy successor would appear. Yet over the past 100 years, every demon who made it to the final stage chose to turn on their companion and kill each other. People like that, even if they cleared the trial, were never worthy of receiving the title of king. Only those like you two, who chose to support each other and face hardship together, even in the most desperate moment, truly possess the demon race's fearless spirit. And that, above all else, is the quality a true king must possess. At that moment, Huo Wujun's HP bar was fully restored, and he also obtained the title Recognized by the Demon King, earning 2 million experience, rising 4 levels, and advancing into a 1+ rank demon. All of his attributes were boosted by 700%, and he obtained an S-rank active skill, Demon King Dragon Breath. The moment Sha Fengliao heard that, he was completely numb. Then his own rewards appeared. 5 million experience, a direct jump of 10 levels, advancement into a 1+ rank demon, all attributes multiplied by 7, an extra 120 freely assignable stat points, and a 3S rank passive skill, Rapid Recovery, restoring 100,000 HP every minute. Congratulations, Sha Fengliao. You have passed the trial and obtained the hidden title, Demon King of the Demon Race. What they did not know was that outside the cavern, everything had already exploded into chaos. The result was simply too unbelievable. They had cleared the ancestral demon cavern in just one afternoon, a death zone where no one had survived for 100 years. So does that mean the prophecy might really come true? Hearing that, even Liu Bingyi was stunned. After all, the last so-called peerless king had been her own ancestor, Liu Yun. It turned out that among the demons, an old prophecy had always been passed down. Over the span of several hundred years, only one true king might emerge from all the demons in the world. That kind of king would carry an aura unlike any other demon, and after enduring the harsh blows of reality, would eventually transform into someone revered by tens of thousands. Huo An was in an excellent mood, thinking to himself, as expected of my son. Winning the title of king was only natural. It seemed he really had underestimated him before, but right then, Wei Ming suddenly spoke up. My apologies, but the one who became king is not young Master Wu Jie Yuan. It is General Sha. And the look on Wei Ming's face was, honestly, a little punchable. The crowd was stunned all over again. What? Sha Fengliao was the king? That was completely different from what any of them had imagined. What they did not know was that this so-called king currently looked dead inside and only wanted to drink himself unconscious. Even the tavern owner was speechless, thinking this man could really drink like a monster. It honestly felt like someone going undercover and somehow, by accident, ending up as the boss. How was he supposed to keep playing this game now? The more Sha Fengliao thought about it, the more miserable he felt. He only had 10,000 HP total, yet now he could heal 100,000 HP per minute. How the hell was he supposed to die like that? And then, just to stab him one more time, the system added, you still have 2 skills left to equip. Hearing that, a wave of sorrow washed over Sha Fengliao. It's over. There's really no going back now, my nana. After that, he wandered aimlessly through the streets. Then suddenly, he noticed that some little brat had been sneaking along behind him the whole way. The moment he turned around, the kid instantly hid again. Sha Fengliao could not be bothered and just kept wandering forward on his own. But before long, the brat peeked his head out again. In the next second, Sha Fengliao suddenly appeared right in front of him. You've been following me? That scare was enough to send the little brat straight onto the ground on his backside. Even so, his face was still full of stubborn pride. You're not scary at all. I'm not afraid of you. Sha Fengliao could only sigh in exasperation and ask what exactly the kid had been following him for. The child stammered that he wanted Sha Fengliao to go with him to the Bailing Demon Cavern. As long as Sha Fengliao agreed, he would do anything in return, even work like a servant for the rest of his life. Sha Fengliao took the paper and glanced at it, while a nearby passerby immediately leaned over to take a look too. Good lord, the whole thing felt weirdly familiar. Was this not basically one of those scam flyers? And this kid had actually fallen for it. Still, what exactly was this Bailing Demon Cavern supposed to be? The boy hurried to explain that he had gone there as soon as he got the notice, but they refused to let him in because he was underage. Then he happened to see Sha Fengliao coming out of another demon cavern, so he became convinced that if it was Sha Fengliao, he would definitely be able to take him inside. The passerby immediately scoffed. That is obviously a scam ad. Who in their right mind would believe that? But Sha Feng Liao suddenly had a thought. Wait, are you serious? Any wish can really come true? The passerby stared at him in disbelief. No way. You were actually buying this too? Of course, Sha Feng Liao had his own calculations. He had once heard that the demon race possessed something called the Spring of Wishes, a place rumored to grant any desire. For all he knew, this place might actually be connected to it. The boy quickly added that he had spent a full 50,000 silver coins just to get this chance. Hearing that, Sha Feng Liao actually thought the price sounded like a steal. The passerby was completely shattered on the spot. That just made it even more obvious that the whole thing was a scam. He was practically rethinking his life. If children were really this easy to cheat, then why was he still out here collecting trash? One bottle or can was only worth a tiny coin. The boy's eyes turned red as he explained that his mother was suffering from heart failure and had only 1 month left to live to. By this chance at a wish, he had handed all the money he earned from working to the bailing club. He had to find the right demon candidate, or his mother would never survive. The passerby did feel sorry for him, but still thought only a fool would agree to go with him. Then, in the very next second, reality slapped him hard in the face. Sha Feng Liao directly agreed. Fine, I'll go with you, but on one condition, you split one wish with me. In his mind, he was a genius. He could just wish himself back into a human and solve everything at once. The boy immediately said that was no problem. He would even split 2 wishes with him if needed. The passerby just stood there, completely numb. In his eyes, these two were absolutely hopeless. And yet, weirdly enough, they somehow gave off the vibe of 2 idiots who actually matched each other. Putting all the clues together, the passerby instantly thought of one place: the Black Duke scam syndicate that had been especially active lately. Very soon, the 2 of them arrived in front of a luxurious entrance full of futuristic technology. Since entry required a scan, Sha Feng Liao looked on with obvious excitement. Down in his head, there was only one thought left. Spring of Wishes, here I come. But the instant he stepped inside, he was immediately locked onto. A voice came out of the darkness. Another fish has taken the bait. Shut the door. Reel them in. The one speaking turned out to be a fat man. He even reminded his underlings to be careful. Do not kill them, and do not cripple them either, or they would not be able to work afterward. The moment they heard the door slam shut behind them, both Sha Feng Liao and the little brat jumped in alarm. Right after that, a sharp crackling sound started buzzing from behind them. A man suddenly swung his fist straight at Sha Feng Liao, and the little kid instantly screamed, "Watch out!" But Sha Feng Liao merely turned his head and gave the guy a lazy glance. Did this clown skip dinner or something? That punch was absurdly weak. It only knocked off 5 HP. At the same time, his passive skill Rapid Recovery triggered instantly, and his HP filled right back up in a blink. Sha Feng Liao even asked in a calm voice, "Hey, so this is Bailing Demon Cavern, right?" The attacker was only a D-rank demon, and he actually thought Sha Feng Liao was bluffing. The guy had taken his full-strength punch head-on and was still talking that casually. A few more people appeared right after that, and Sha Feng Liao bluntly announced that they had come here to make a wish. But looking at the group in front of him, Sha Feng Liao suddenly started wondering if they had somehow come to the wrong place. The blonde guy almost laughed himself sick. At a time like this, you're still dreaming? People like you greedy idiots are exactly why we keep getting rich off scams. Use that pig brain of yours for once. Since when does this world hand out wishes for free? By now, the alcohol had fully kicked in for Sha Feng Liao, and he shot right back. Quit the crap and hand over the demon race's Spring of Wishes already. Hearing that, the group burst into even louder laughter. The Spring of Wishes? That fairy tale for tricking children? Don't tell me you actually believe in that nonsense. We're the biggest human trafficking black market outfit in Yungguo. We scam idiots like you into coming to Bailing Demon Cavern. If you behave, you stay here and work as miners for the rest of your lives. If you don't, we butcher you and sell your kidneys. Trash like you from the bottom of society can disappear tomorrow, and nobody would even care. The man gave Sha Feng Liao a once-over and sneered that his build was not much to look at, but he could probably still be useful for military assembly work, so he had better learn to behave and become an obedient dog. But before he could even finish talking, his whole body was blasted away like a human cannonball. The blonde guy and the other 2 were completely stunned. Their minds had gone blank. Who am I? Where am I? What the hell just happened? Meanwhile, the first man ended up embedded in the ceiling and stopped moving entirely. Sha Feng Liao was furious. Ever since his rebirth, this was not even the first time he had gone through the same crap. Hope rising for 1 second, only to get smashed flat the next. The blonde guy instantly realized they had run into a real monster and barked for his partners to suit up. They were determined to teach this bastard a lesson for daring to fight back. What came next was their equipment up scene, and honestly, it looked like Iron Man had descended in person. The whole place was overflowing with sci-fi style. In no time, the group had transformed into 3 full-blown Iron Men. And to be fair, they actually looked pretty cool. One of them started charging up power, eager to use Sha Fengliao as a live test subject for the latest Biga armor and show him just how cruel the real world could be. The moment someone yelled, "Get him!" the group swarmed him together. What they did not realize was that they had charged straight into the muzzle of Sha Fengliao's gun. Every single time, he had always been just one tiny step away from finally getting what he wanted. And today, after downing 2 whole gin of liquor, his emotions were already through the roof. To Sha Fengliao, these idiots were practically being filial sons, going out of their way to stir things up for him. The more wronged he felt, the more fired up he became. Then he threw a single punch, and even the air itself seemed to explode from the force of it. The shockwave plowed up the floor and kicked up massive clouds of dust. The group looked like they had stepped into a superheated furnace, and their armor was instantly blown into powder. That was enough to make them collapse to their knees and beg for mercy. In their eyes, the man standing in front of them was terrifyingly powerful. Meanwhile, Sha Fengliao only wore the most aggrieved expression imaginable. He really was suffering, really was frustrated. One of them immediately switched to a sympathy play, saying that they too had been tricked into coming here. The organization was simply too powerful. There was no way for them to escape, so they had no choice but to stay and work for it. By now, the alcohol in Sha Fengliao's system had worn off a little. He had been ready to brush off the nonsense coming out of the guy's mouth. But the moment he heard the words "powerful backing," he started paying attention. The blonde thug immediately sensed hope and hurried to add, "Say it out loud and it'll scare you to death. The one backing us is none other than the person holding the highest office in all of Yongguo. And once the general gets here, you're dead for sure." The second Sha Fengliao heard that, he more or less figured it out. One of Yongguo's 3 top officials? So in the end, it really was one of those old bastards. The only question was, which one of them had the nerve to run a scam operation right into his face? Just then, a heavy iron door slowly opened. The blonde thug lit up like he had just seen his savior and instantly got arrogant again. "Ha ha! The general's here! You're dead now!" Sha Fengliao only turned his head and glanced over, but before he could even speak, a voice rang out first. "Hey, so you're the one making trouble here?" And the man who arrived was none other than the fat guy Sha Fengliao had seen on the monitors when he first entered. The moment he saw that face, Sha Fengliao understood exactly who the real power behind this scam ring was. It was that old dog Chengdu Saoao. The blonde thug's face instantly changed. You... How do you know who our boss is? And you actually dare talk about him like that?" Even the fat man himself looked a little confused. He thought one of his useless subordinates must have let something slip, never realizing that what had really exposed him was his face. Because he was Qiangdu Cao's younger brother, Qiangdu Peng, the blonde thug suddenly realized he had probably just doomed himself. He immediately started stammering out a desperate apology, but in the very next second, his head exploded like a watermelon. The little kid was horrified by the sight. That was way too brutal. Qiangdu Peng, however, looked utterly disgusted. Dot-eye in his eyes, these people were just useless trash. Not even worth keeping around if they could not handle one nameless nobody. The men who came in with him could not even remember who Sha Fengliao was. His face looked completely unfamiliar to them. Looking down at Sha Fengliao from above, Qiangdu Peng said coldly, "You know too much. That means the only place left for you is here, as fertilizer." Hearing that, Sha Fengliao actually felt a little hopeful. This fat man seemed like he might finally be strong enough. In that case, he might as well give him a real chance to kill him. "Then go ahead. Let's see if you can actually kill me. I'm giving you 10 minutes. If you can't kill me within 10, then you're the one who dies." There was something deeply strange about the expression on Sha Fengliao's face when he said that, and everyone around him was stunned. None of them had ever seen someone make such a bizarre request. Even Qiangdu Peng was thrown off. What the hell did that mean? A 10-minute limit? Was this brat actually looking down on him? Qiangdu Peng instantly felt humiliated to the core. He swore that in 1 second flat, he would send Sha Fengliao's head flying. The surrounding thugs recognized the move at once. This was the general's strongest attack. Just from the aura alone, it was obvious he had no intention of leaving Sha Fengliao alive. Yet to everyone's disbelief, Qiangdu Peng's supposedly fatal strike only shaved 500 HP off Sha Fengliao. It was all thunder and no rain. In the next second, Sha Fengliao's HP bar filled back to full automatically. Qiangdu Peng froze on the spot. How is that even possible? In Sha Fengliao's eyes, this fat guy was only a tiny bit stronger than the trash from earlier. In the end, he was still just another useless bum. "Hey, fatty. What? Did you skip dinner too? Why don't you try your ultimate move on me?" The fat man instantly felt humiliated all over again. and finally realized that this brat really did have some tricks up his sleeve. Seeing the 10-minute limit running out, Sha Fengliao was the one who got impatient first. "Come on already! Are you even capable of killing me, you fat loser?" The fat man's face twisted from rage. This bastard still dared to look down on him? Fine. He would make sure this kid learned exactly why flowers were red. In the next second, the fat man lunged forward and charged straight at Sha Fengliao. Then he unleashed a savage 5-hit combo right on Sha Fengliao. And right after that, he chained into an even crazier 8-hit barrage. There was no way Sha Fengliao could survive this. At that very moment, the blonde thug finally remembered who Sha Fengliao actually was, and cold sweat instantly poured down his face. The ground itself was smashed into rubble by the fat man's attacks, and the fat man was panting like a dog, practically exhausted from the effort. But in the very next second, Sha Fengliao stood back up at full HP again and said with total disdain, "Hey fatty, that's it? Don't stop." At that point, the fat man felt like he had been humiliated for the third time. His eyes turned cold, and he decided to bring out his trump card. But just as he unleashed his strongest burst, like his ancestors had suddenly blessed him from beyond the grave, he triggered Sha Fengliao's passive skill, Damage Reflection. The fat man coughed out a huge mouthful of blood on the spot and was blasted backward. He was the one doing the hitting, yet he ended up vomiting blood himself. The fat man's mind went blank. He genuinely could not understand what kind of freak this kid was. Just then, the blonde thug suddenly shouted, "I remember now! He's that lunatic who openly challenged General Huo and in the palace. But wasn't he supposed to have entered the ancestral demon cavern? Why is he still alive? And why is he here?" Hearing that, the fat man finally realized who he was dealing with. "So that's your background. I've heard of you. Aren't you just that pretty boy being kept by that bitch Leo? Don't think you can fool me. A lowly demon like you, rising by clinging to women, actually thinks you're worth something?" But what nobody expected was that this fat man was actually a greater demon with 2 hearts. If he had not revealed it himself, who would have known? He even claimed that he was the true future ruler of the demon race. He thrust out his hand, and from the look of it, he was about to go full Iron Man mode too. And his armor was clearly on a whole different level from the blonde thug squad. It was an A-rank Cloud Soldier battle armor. Lying inside the crater, Sha Fengliao looked completely annoyed. "Fatty, quit posing and hurry up." Hearing that, the fat man sucked in a deep breath. Then storm-like energy began gathering around his right hand. This was his newly linked form, Cloud Shock Inferno. The next second, a storm of fists exploded out with a series of thunderous booms, followed by an even more terrifying blast. But the result was that the fat man's own armor shattered apart, and he ended up looking like a dead dog from pure exhaustion all over again. And just as expected, disaster struck right on cue. Critical reflected damage triggered again, and this time, it triggered repeatedly. The first wave alone ripped away 7,000 Harspas from him. The second wave took another 10,000 alone. Then the third one slammed him for 8,400 more. The fat man's HP bar bottomed out instantly, triggering his near-death state on the spot. The blonde thug was so terrified his soul nearly left his body, and he started crying out for the general in a shaking voice. Meanwhile, the fat man himself was blasted backward once again and smashed hard into the ground. He truly could not make sense of any of it. The one doing the beating was the one dying, while the one getting hit was completely fine. Even Conan would have been baffled by this nonsense. At this point, the fat man was hanging on by his last breath, and in his mind, he had already replayed every terrible thing he had ever done in his life. He truly felt like karma had finally come for him. Meanwhile, Sha Fengliao slowly rose to his feet. 10 minutes are already up, so why the hell am I still not dead? The more Sha Fengliao thought about it, the angrier he became. So you really are just another useless piece of trash. Why? Why am I still at full HP? Fatty, was that really all you had? Go on, tell me, how do you want to die? Cracking his knuckles, Sha Fengliao stared at him coldly. That's your full power? Pathetic. You're absolute trash. The fat man immediately nodded, like his life depended on it. Yes, yes, yes. That was everything I had. I gave it all to you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I disappointed you. Hey bro, no sir. Great sir. Please don't hit me. Whatever you want. Money, treasure, anything. I'll give it to you. Sha Fengliao lifted a fist the size of a sandbag and said flatly, I want you to make me die. The fat man practically cried out every grievance of his entire life. Brother, please stop messing with me. I'm not worthy of this. What kind of monster are you? Just then, a voice suddenly came from outside. Right, General. The blonde thug also hurriedly shouted, Please save the General. He's your real younger brother. And the person who had arrived was none other than Qiangdu Cao. But Qiangdu Cao only said calmly, He brought this on himself. Whether he lives or dies is up to General Shah, not me. General Shah, this place is actually an armory personally established by the previous demon sovereign, a facility used to forge weapons. My poor management caused this misunderstanding. I ask for your forgiveness. Once I return, I will strengthen control here immediately. Sha Fengliao knew right away this old bastard was lying through his teeth without even blinking. But he could not care less. Whatever garbage you people are running has nothing to do with me. And as for this fatty's life, I'm not interested in it either. After saying that, he turned and left Kyungdo's CO with nothing but a cool, dismissive back view, even tossing out one last line. TC8, a bunch of useless trash, talking all big about your strongest weapons, and this is all you've got? What a disappointment. The fat man realized he had just gotten his life back and immediately started kowtowing like mad, thanking him over and over again. But just then, Sha Fengliao suddenly stopped walking. Oh right, there's one more thing. Fatty, didn't you just say you'd give me anything I wanted? Sha Fengliao leaned in close and asked in a low voice, didn't you also say you had 2 demon hearts? The fat man was so terrified he nearly wet himself and instantly started denying it. I never said that. I swear I didn't. Wait, what do you even mean by that? You're scaring me here. The scene then shifted and a miserable scream exploded out from the operating room. Brother, save me. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please let me go. But no matter how much the fat man struggled, the doctors remained completely unmoved. They simply told the others to prepare the anesthesia and casually added, relax, he won't die from losing just 1 heart. Meanwhile, Sha Fengliao and the little brat quietly stood guard outside the operating room. The boy's eyes were red as he said, Big brother, if it weren't for you, my mom would really have had no chance. Thank you. Sha Fengliao only waved it off. It was nothing. Even so, he could not help wondering whether that place really could grant wishes after all. The only problem was that his own wish felt like something he would have to wait forever to see fulfilled. And then, without meaning to, he found himself thinking of his fiancée again. Nana, how are you now? After seeing Sha Fengliao off, Chengdu Co finally let out a quiet sigh of relief and asked in a low voice, he didn't discover the energy storage device, did he? One of his men immediately answered, no need to worry. The demon essence is still safely sealed inside. It contains Yongguo's most powerful energy weapon. Even if we have to die protecting it, we cannot let anyone else find out. After all, the human army will be here very soon. The scene suddenly shifted to another battlefield. The army has finished regrouping. Everyone, make your final preparations for war. Xiaofeng, this battle was originally supposed to be commanded by you, but now all that remains here is your body. I miss you. How are you doing over there? It won't be long before we meet again. And the man lying there in silence was none other than Sha Fengliao's former self, Sha Liaofeng. In the next instant, 3 men rushed him at once, but Sha Fengliao could not even be bothered to dodge. Their blades struck his shoulders and rang out with the sound of metal hitting metal. That only pissed him off even more. Didn't you people eat today? Aim for my head. Trash! Trash! Every last one of you is useless. Is there seriously nobody who can kill Sha Fengliao? It was obvious that this time, Sha Fengliao genuinely wanted to die. But then, his eyes snapped open. It had all been a dream. And honestly, when he woke up, he even felt disappointed. If only it hadn't been a dream. At that moment, Liu Bingyi's maid was already standing by his bedside. General Sha, Her Highness has called an emergency military council. Please come to the main hall immediately. Sha Fengliao blinked in confusion. A military council? By the time he arrived, he was already seated in the second highest position in the chamber, with Huoan sitting directly across from him. Liu Bingyi spoke first. According to our scouts, the human leadership has undergone major changes. It appears they are preparing to launch their attack ahead of schedule. And this time, they have dispatched over 10,000 soldiers. That is why I summoned all of you here to discuss our response. It was clear Liu Bingyi took this meeting extremely seriously. Even the entrance to the chamber was lined with armed guards. After all, the last time a war of this scale broke out was 10 years ago. Back then, the demon race had only barely held off the humans by throwing nearly the entire nation into battle. Huo and then added in a deep voice. In the end, it was only because I and the demon sovereign launched a decapitation strike together that Yongguo was preserved. But at that time, humanity had deployed only 5,000 troops. Now, our military strength has hardly advanced at all, while the enemy has sent double that number. In this old servant's opinion, the safest plan is to hold the walls, wear them down, and wait for the right moment. Wu Jun, you will immediately lead an advance unit and request reinforcements from the alliance. Wu Jun accepted the order at once. Liu Bingyi then turned to Sha Fengliao. General Sha, what are your thoughts? The moment he heard that, Sha Fengliao's mind began racing. 10,000 soldiers? If even 1,000 of them attacked him at the same time for 1 minute, and each one dealt only 100 damage per minute on average, then the total damage would still easily exceed his regeneration, which meant that if he just ran out there first and provoked them all into attacking him, then he could finally die properly. The more Sha Fengliao thought about it, the more perfect the idea seemed. This was heaven sent. The grin on his face began twisting out of shape, and the next second, he slammed a hand down on the table. Fight. We have to fight. Not only that, we should march out of the city and smash them head on. Whoa, and nearly ground his teeth to dust the moment he heard that. This was pure madness. He slammed his own hand onto the table in response. Yongguo stands at the edge of life and death, and yet you dare spout this kind of reckless nonsense? Sha Fengliao did not back down in the slightest. He fired back on the spot. 10 years ago, humanity sent only 5,000 troops, and that was already enough to beat all of you to the edge of collapse. And now they've marched right up to our gates with over 10,000. Yet your first instinct is still to turtle up, beg for reinforcements, and pin all your hopes on someone else coming to save you? So what happens 10 years from now? When they bring 20,000? 30,000? Who are you going to hand your lives over to then? Don't tell me you don't even have the courage to seize your own fate with your own hands. And besides, who said the demon race's military strength hasn't changed? Did you all forget who I am? I am the demon race's king. I'm your greatest military change. That shameless level of confidence hit so hard that Liu Bingyi's eyes practically lit up on the spot. The others were shaken awake by his words too. That was right. How had they almost forgotten something so important? The man standing in front of them was the king recognized by the ancestor, the first one to appear in 100 years. And then there was the old prophecy of the demon race. The king would unite the entire demon race and lead them toward the light. The moment Huo sensed the tide turning, he stood up to object. Are you trying to throw tens of thousands of soldiers to their deaths? You have never truly stood on a battlefield. What do you know of its cruelty? Sha Fengliao immediately shot back with a sneer. Do you think victory just falls into your lap for free? You really believe that because a surprise strike worked once, the enemy will hand you the exact same opportunity a second time? Those two questions slammed into Huo, and so hard that he was left speechless on the spot. But Sha Fengliao was not done. What? You think sitting here and talking like cowards is somehow going to win this war? You've led troops for so many years, and you still don't know the most important thing on a battlefield? It's the will to win. A cowardly general breeds a cowardly army. I, Sha Fengliao, make a military pledge right here. If we lose this battle, I will submit to immediate execution. The three highest officials all wore different expressions the moment they heard that. Bo Wujun, on the other hand, looked openly impressed. Just as expected, this was the man he had set his sights on no matter when it was. Sha Fengliao always knew how to ignite people's blood. After hearing it all, Liu Bingyi rose to her feet and finally made her decision. Honestly, you really leave me no choice. Then she issued her command on the spot. In this battle, General Sha will command the three armies. Every force below the rank of marshal will obey him. We open the gates and meet the enemy head-on. Hearing that, Huoan's whole back tensed. He had spent decades in the military, and with one look, he could tell that this human force was nothing like before. Not only were they far more numerous, but every single soldier was clearly several times stronger than in past wars. In Huoan's eyes, the demon race had no chance of victory this time, so he grit his teeth and spoke. You men have followed me for years. I will not watch you throw your lives away for nothing. Hear my order. In this battle, no one is to leave the city, and no one is required to obey General Sha's command. If Her Highness wishes to punish someone, I alone will bear the responsibility. Very soon, several days passed, and the human army officially reached the border city of Yongguo. Outside the walls, advanced heavy weapons had already been fully deployed, and the human commander stood there with a telescope, coldly surveying the city. His objective this time was simple: crush Yongguo completely. With that in mind, he immediately gave the order to begin the siege. By order of the new general, leave not a single demon alive. The cannons roared with blazing streams of energy, and a storm of missiles instantly rained down toward the demons inside the city. The demons inside panicked and hurriedly raised layers of magic to block the attack. Most of the missiles were destroyed before they could even land, but one missile broke through the pattern and slipped right past the defenses. In that moment, the young woman had never felt death so close. But at the last possible second, that missile too was destroyed in an instant. It was Sha Fengliao and his people. They had arrived, and Sha Fengliao had been waiting for this day for a very, very long time. All of a sudden, the ground kicked up rolling clouds of dust. Through the haze, rows upon rows of steel beasts could be seen advancing forward. They pushed in a wedge-shaped formation, and every human soldier looked fired up for battle. From atop the city wall, Sha Liao stood there and watched them approach. Meanwhile, behind him, Huo and quietly started making trouble again, leaning toward the others and whispering, "Remember what I told you." The demons on the wall immediately began murmuring among themselves. "So what do we do? Are we supposed to listen to General Huo? But General Sha is the supreme commander right now. If we disobey, that's outright breaking military orders." Sha Liao had clearly noticed all of it, but he could not have cared less. Instead, he shouted out his command. "Hear my order! Every last one of you stays inside the city.N01 is allowed to leave the gates." The moment those words landed, the entire city looked like it had used up a lifetime's worth of shock, all at once. Great.N. More dilemma then. Apparently the king intended to fight this battle alone, and the second he finished speaking, Sha Liao launched himself straight off the city wall. Huo and was hit by a second wave of absolute disbelief. "Wait, what? You're actually serious?" Even the human army on the other side was thrown completely off. None of them understood what the hell was happening. The enemy commander had literally walked out alone to stand in front of them, and the human side's commanding officer was full of question marks. Framed by the dust clouds behind him, Sha Liao's figure somehow looked absurdly tall and imposing. The battlefield had fallen into a terrifying silence, with nothing audible except the rhythmic sound of his footsteps. Before long, both sides were facing each other across the battlefield, and Sha Liao stood there alone before 10,000 troops, somehow not losing an aura at all. If anything, he really did give off the air of one man holding the line against an army. The human commander was still dazed. What kind of demon was this? He actually came down here by himself? That commander's name was Lu Renjia, a blue harmony type mage. Seeing that not a single demon soldier on the walls had moved, his first instinct was that this had to be a trap. Up on the wall, the demon soldiers were still whispering to each other. Did I hear that right just now? No way. He really told us not to move? Yeah, that's exactly what he said. He told us all to stay put while he went down there to take on the entire human army by himself. The more Huoen watched, the more convinced he became that Sha Liao was a full-blown lunatic. What exactly was he planning? There were 10,000 human troops down there, and he really had ordered every demon soldier to stay inside. Sha Liao calmly straightened his collar and looked toward the human ranks with open contempt. "I heard the human army was supposed to be strong, so why are you all acting like cowards now? Not one of you dares to charge." The moment he finished speaking, he actually started taking off his shirt. Even then, the human army still did not move. Sha Liao instantly got annoyed and shouted out in mockery, "You've got to be kidding me. I'm standing here alone, and you useless trash still don't dare come at me?" At this point, the atmosphere across the entire battlefield had turned unbelievably strange. Sha Liao, all by himself, had somehow pressured the entire human army into not daring to make a move. And the human commander on the other side just happened to be an old acquaintance of his, once even his subordinate. Sha Liao had never expected that the one leading this siege would actually be him. At this point, he could only hope Lu Renjia would not disappoint him. On top of that, Sha Liao still remembered Lu Renjia's fatal weakness, his pride. Push him just a little, and he would absolutely lose his mind. So in the next second, Sha Liao actually started striking ridiculous poses and shouted with pure mockery, "Hey, you little trash mobs, come over here and scratch my itch." Lu Renjia looked like he had just been struck by lightning. His whole face twisted in rage. "You son of a bitch! Did you just stick your ass out at us?" In the next second, he drew his blade and roared, "Kill him!" Instantly, guns and artillery erupted all at once, and that was exactly the outcome Sha Liao had been hoping for. Yes, that was it. Come all at once. Turn the damage all the way up, but Sha Liao still stood there without dodging or retreating, while Lu Renjia himself was already preparing to attack. And even under such a dense rain of fire, Sha Liao did not move an inch. To be honest, Lu Renjia was pretty pathetic. One slash from him only barely knocked 150 HP off Sha Liao. The other soldiers were even worse. They struggled just to shave off 20 harm AP, and their damage speed was nowhere near enough to keep up with his regeneration. Even though Sha Liao had not assigned any points into stamina, his defense had naturally risen a lot through leveling up. As things stood, their damage output was still far from enough to kill him. They would need at least 1,600 damage per second to even have a chance. Sha Liao instantly got annoyed and shouted, "What? Are you all starving? Hit me with everything you've got." The human soldiers were completely stunned. Their attacks were doing almost nothing, and the wounds on his body were visibly healing right in front of their eyes. Lu Renjia utterly lost it, spewing curses non-stop. That recovery rate was way too monstrous. He immediately ordered the second unit to join in, and the two divisions opened fire together at full power, unloading everything they had onto Sha Liao. Then, one of the heavy machines suddenly lit up with a red glow. It was a laser weapon, and it instantly locked onto Sha Fengliao. Once the charge was complete, a brilliant golden beam shot out. Sha Fengliao took the hit dead on, but there was not even a trace of fear on his face. Instead, he burst into delighted laughter, like his wish had finally come true, and even kept taunting them to continue. Up on the city wall, Huoan stared fixedly at Sha Fengliao, who was being blasted by artillery fire. Even he could not hide his shock. What was wrong with this guy? How could his regenerative power be this ridiculous? Could it be? Was he serious all along? From the very beginning, when he said he wanted to fight, had he actually meant to challenge the entire human army by himself? Meanwhile, the more Sha Fengliao got hit, the more excited he became. He even looked pleased as he commented, "That's more like it." Now this finally has some bite, but the human army only grew more uneasy the longer they fought. The more they attacked, the more something felt wrong. All of them were secretly wondering the same thing. What exactly was this guy planning next? Was he hiding some kind of trick? The moment Sha Fengliao saw his HP finally start dropping, he almost laughed like a pig. Yes, yes, yes! That's it! Keep going! But right at that moment, his passive skill suddenly triggered. In the next second, one poor bastard instantly took 8,000 reflected damage, coughed up a huge mouthful of blood, and slammed onto the ground. Everyone else froze in confusion. Their minds all blanked at once. What the hell just happened? The soldier was hanging on by his last breath and forced out a trembling sentence. This guy, he's not a normal demon. That reflected damage is insane. The crowd instantly erupted in alarm. Abing's dead! The more Lu Renjia watched, the more convinced he became that something was seriously wrong with Sha Fengliao. He immediately ordered all soldiers to cease fire, because he suddenly remembered something the new general had once mentioned. Long ago, Yongguo had produced a 3S rank demon king whose regenerative ability was basically bug-level broken. Back then, that king had destroyed several human nations by sheer force on his own. He had even seized the 3 great demon caverns, giving the demon race the power to truly stand against humanity. But the problem was, hadn't that demon king died long ago? So what exactly was the thing standing in front of them now? The second Sha Fengliao saw them stop attacking, he got annoyed and shouted, "Hey, why'd you stop? You're telling me 10,000 human soldiers can't even kill one guy?" The human troops were now noticing a new problem too. Look, his wounds are all healing again. There's definitely something wrong with him. Lu Renjia agreed that Sha Fengliao was anything but normal and immediately ordered everyone to stay calm and stop attacking for now. More importantly, their real mission this time had only been to lure out Yongguo's strongest demon forces. That objective was already complete, so retreating now would let them avoid unnecessary losses. The moment Sha Fengliao heard that, he went completely blank. The demon army on the city wall was just as stunned. What the hell? The humans were actually trying to retreat? One woman instantly snapped and shouted, "All Imperial Guards, charge with me! Don't let these humans escape!" Riding her battle mount, she was the first to rush out, and the cavalry behind her followed immediately. Huo Wujun also gave the order to attack, and the moment the soldiers received it, their morale surged. Even Sha Fengliao was startled by that. How had these people all entered that high morale state again? The demon army was fully awakened now. One after another, they transformed into dragon riders and charged at the retreating human army. Lu Renjia was shocked. What was going on? Why did these demons suddenly look like they'd all been injected with adrenaline? And to make things worse, he had already blown his ultimate earlier, and his cooldown hadn't even reset yet. Then the demon army roared out a slogan that shook the battlefield. "Whoever invades our land, no matter how far, will be destroyed." Even Huoan was completely won over by Sha Fengliao at that point. For the first time, he truly felt that he was getting old, and that this era now belonged to the young. Sha Fengliao really did deserve the title of king. Then Huoan himself entered the high morale state and gave the order on the spot. "All soldiers, hear me. From this moment on, the entire army will obey Sha Fengliao's command. Today, I will make sure these insects never return alive." Explosive power surged through Huoan's entire body. The officers all acknowledged the order at once, but just as they were about to throw themselves fully into battle, a frantic voice suddenly rang out from behind them. "Report! Bad news!" The moment Huo heard it, his heart sank. The human army had used deception. They'd pulled a feint. The force in front of them was only a decoy meant to lure the tigers away from the mountain. Their true elite troops had struck from the western gate and broken straight into Yonggu. Not a single western defender survived. Every one of them was slaughtered. And now, inside Yongguo, the people were being brutally massacred by the human army. Even women and children had been shown no mercy. At this point, the human army looked even more demonic than the demons themselves, and they were the true main force behind this invasion, tearing straight through the battlefield and all the way to the palace, with the demon sovereign as their target. Hearing that report, Huan shook with rage from head to toe. The scene then shifted again. The fat man had officially cashed in his life. Poor bastard. He had only just lost one heart, and now he had lost the rest of himself too. A towering human general walked toward the palace with a massive sword resting on his shoulder, while demon corpses lay scattered all around his feet. At this rate, he was about to reach Liu Bingyi and the others any second. Liu Bingyi herself was already covered in wounds. She could feel it clearly. The human general in front of her was far too strong. Strong enough that defeating him seemed impossible. Wei Ming was panting hard as well and hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, we have to find a way to withdraw." But to everyone's surprise, the human general simply sat down right there and said, "Your national defenses have already been completely destroyed. Now it's time for the real fun to begin." The people around him all looked visibly eager, but at that exact moment, a massive fireball came crashing down toward them. With a thunderous explosion, the human general turned his head sharply to look. One of his companions had already been blasted to the edge of death, and the others hurried over to heal him. A second later, and he probably would have crossed the line for good. Wu and was now radiating murderous intent. He instantly moved in front of Liu Bingyi and Wei Ming and roared, "You shameless cowards!" The human general only chuckled. Finally, a demon that might actually be fun. There was excitement in his eyes now. Perfect timing. May. Blade's been starving for this. Huan's gaze sharpened at once. This man was unquestionably dangerous, and the strange purple aura around him was impossible to read. This had to be ended quickly. In the next second, terrifying energy erupted from Huan's body, and then he transformed into a demonic dragon form, his aura exploding upward. Strength rose by 130%, speed by 150%, and the most outrageous boost of all was his stamina, which shot up by 500% for 10 full minutes. At that moment, the human general looked as tiny as an ant in front of Huan. In the blink of an eye, the two had already clashed head-on, their weapons crashing together with explosive force. By then, the entire battlefield had gone insane, filled with the sounds of metal colliding and desperate screams. Elsewhere, Sha Fengliao was so frustrated he felt like his liver was about to burst. Great. Just great, so all of you are messing with me now? This is how you're testing me? Ever since he had been reborn into this lousy body, Sha Fengliao had felt like he was living with cheat codes turned on. He had gone from the lowest grunt in the ranks to somehow becoming Yongguo's greatest general, and from total trash tier fodder to a monster no one could kill. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became, until he actually started laughing from sheer despair. And while laughing, tears even started running down his face. He looked up at the sky and demanded, "What exactly do you want from me? Do you really expect me to become the Demon King before you're satisfied?" And in the very next second, the sky actually seemed to answer him. A giant thunder dragon descended from above. It was almost as if heaven itself wanted to smite this ungrateful lunatic. Countless people dreamed of immortality, and yet this guy was out here complaining about it. But in the most absurd twist possible, the thunder dragon did not strike Sha Fengliao at all. Instead, it slammed into the battlefield right in front of him. Sha Fengliao was completely numb. "Are you serious right now? Couldn't you aim a little better?" By the time the thunder dragon fully faded away, the two armies that had been fighting moments earlier were already sprawled all over the battlefield. Sha Fengliao stood there in a daze. What was going on? Weren't the humans supposed to be fighting the demons outside the city? When had they made it inside? Then a desperate voice suddenly caught his attention. "Please, let my daughter go. I'll give you anything you want." The soldier let out a lewd laugh. "Even if I don't let your daughter go, you're still gonna give me whatever I want, aren't you?" The little girl struggled wildly under the soldier's arm, while the man holding her looked utterly smug. "I'll just go ahead and enjoy her first." Her father screamed for him to stop, voice tearing apart from desperation. But he was pinned to the ground so hard, he could not do a thing. In the next instant, a sword stabbed straight through his hand, blood splattering across the ground. The soldier sneered, "Winners take all, losers." But before he could finish, a fist smashed into him and sent him flying 800 meters away. Sha Fengliao walked toward them one heavy step at a time, because the whole situation felt wrong. War was cruel, yes. Victory and defeat were cruel, yes. But the human army had always strictly forbidden this kind of thing. The other two soldiers looked at him and gave cold laughs. "Heh, another demon coming over here to die." Meanwhile, the girl's hands were already bound behind her back, and her whole body was trembling. The two soldiers rushed Sha Fengliao from both sides at once, clearly deciding that if he wanted to ruin their fun, he could die with it. But just as the hat-wearing soldier closed in, Sha Fengliao's eyes sharpened, and he threw a single punch. Both soldiers were knocked straight into a near-death state on the spot, and that was with him holding back. The two of them collapsed on the ground, coughing up blood non-stop. Then Sha Fengliao bent down and grabbed one of them by the throat. The soldier was cursing internally like crazy. It had been just one normal punch, Yet both of their HP bars had been emptied instantly. This shirtless demon had to be cheating. Sha Fengliao stared down at him with killing intent and asked coldly, "Which legion are you from? What squad number?" Terrified, the soldier blurted out, We're from the 21st Legion, Squad 511. The other soldier was still swearing in panic, unable to understand why a demon would ask for their unit number. But the moment Sha Fengliao heard it, it hit him like lightning. 21511. Wasn't that the exact number of the force he himself had once commanded? In the next second, he slowly let go of the man's throat and froze in place. What is this? Why is it like this? Seeing that Sha Fengliao had clearly lost focus, the two soldiers scrambled to their feet and ran for their lives. But Sha Fengliao did not even bother chasing them, because the deeper he thought, the more wrong everything felt. Ever since he had seen the devastation inside the city, that sense of unease had only grown stronger. Then suddenly, something clicked, and his expression changed. Why did this place feel so familiar? The buildings, the style, the eerily similar scene unfolding in front of him. He remembered now. He really had been here before. Sha Fengliao's heart slammed in his chest. He remembered. He finally remembered. That battle back then had been just as brutal. Humanity's heavy weapons had rained down on the demon city again and again, just like this. That's right. This place was Yungu. And just then, the little girl cried out in heartbreak, "Mom! They tortured Mom to death!" That scream yanked Sha Fengliao violently back to reality. All the father and daughter could do was cling to each other and sob, while the man kept trying to comfort his child through his own tears. Right then, a bolt of lightning crashed down from the sky, and rain began striking Sha Fengliao's body. Sha Fengliao slowly lifted his head and looked up into the darkened heavens. In the next second, he saw Huoan in the sky. The demonic dragon form Huoan had transformed into that single glance fully awakened his memory. 6 years ago, he had personally led an army to attack a place called Yongguo, and the final opponent he defeated back then was Huoan. In fact, Huoan had lost in a single move, and because that victory had come so easily, Sha Fengliao had long since forgotten the whole thing. Only now did he finally understand. It turned out he had been reborn into Yongguo 6 years in the past, but that only raised an even bigger question. If this was 6 years ago, then why was the one leading the human army not his former self? And where exactly was his original body now? The scene shifted again, this time to a calm and beautiful lakeside. Beside the lake, the princess stood quietly with Sha Fengliao. "Xiaofeng, the hatred between races is only going to deepen again," she said softly. "You're different from all the others. Your wars were fought to protect. Theirs are fought for release, plunder, and cruelty. War is a terrible thing, a truly frightening thing." As he listened, Sha Fengliao's face gradually darkened. Because in his memory, the 511th unit back then had been a force of iron discipline and unwavering conviction. After defeating Huoan, he had personally ordered every demon captive to be released. Compared with that, what he was seeing now could not have been more different. Nearby, a child clutched a dagger tightly in his hand, while his mother kept urging him to run and leave her behind, even though she knew the fate waiting for her would be horrific. All she still wanted was for her child to survive. But the man found her voice annoying and casually released a burst of electricity, paralyzing her on the spot. The woman instantly fell silent, and that man, who now looked more like a devil than a human, turned out to be one of Sha Fengliao's old subordinates. This was someone Sha Fengliao had once personally sent to prison for violating military law. And yet now, not only had the man been released, he had fallen right back into his old habits, grinning lewdly as he said, "Heh, a demon's wife. Still got some charm left in her." Sha Fengliao's pupils slowly widened, and the anger in his chest surged upward. These people were truly unforgivable. He remembered that when Huo Wujun was born, the doorway had been crowded with people. Back then, Huoan had been smiling like a child. It was the first time any of his subordinates had ever seen Huoan look so happy. Holding the baby Wujun in his arms, Huo had looked like a completely different Imminent. As a father, the only thing he had wanted was for little Wujun to grow up safely. Looking at his weak and suffering wife, he had even sworn that he would use his own life to protect the two of them. The scene snapped back to the battlefield, where the human commander's attack flashed past in an instant, leaving a fresh wound on Huoan's body. But even so, Huoan's aura only grew fiercer. He had already decided that no matter what happened, he would never allow these scum to destroy Yonggu. The human commander, meanwhile, was slightly surprised. "Not bad. For an ordinary A+ ranked demon, you're tougher than I expected." But in his eyes, the game had gone on long enough. It was time to deliver the real finishing blow. The human commander stomped down hard, shattering the ground beneath him, and launched forward like a cannonball. Both sides' momentum surged at the same time, and several sharp arcs of sword light tore across the air. In the next instant, the man landed gracefully, while Huoen let out a shrill cry of pain. Right after that, he dropped out of his demonic dragon form and returned to human shape. In that moment, Huoen finally understood the truth. This man's strength was far beyond his own. From beginning to end, he had been toyed with. A cold light flashed in the man's eyes. "Looks like you still failed to satisfy me." The moment he finished speaking, he slowly raised the sword in his hand. "Then die." But just then, a sharp metallic clash suddenly rang out. The man's face filled with confusion, and the demons on Huoen's side were equally stunned, because the one who had blocked the blow was Huo Wujun. Huoen immediately roared, "Run, you idiot! You're no match for him. Since you were a child, you've always been this reckless." The moment he heard that, Huo Wujun's expression changed. "So that's how little you think of me? Is that really how you've always seen me?" Huoen was left speechless, because all he had really wanted to do was protect his son. But from childhood onward, the person Huo Wujun admired most had always been Huoen. Every time his father came up, he would light up with excitement. After all, that was the great general who led armies into battle. To him, that was the coolest thing in the world. Huo Wujun had always been a top student as a child, and that year, he once again took first place. The very first thing he did was run straight into Huoen's study, hoping his father would praise him even once. But Huoen had only replied flatly, "I know." Huo Wujun had been crushed. He had taken first place, and that was all he got. Later, as a young man, Huo Wujun ranked first in the military trials as well. He thought this time his father would finally have a few words of praise for him, but the answer he got was exactly the same. So Huo Wujun could only turn inward and convince himself that he still had not done enough. Before long, Huo Wujun was promoted to lieutenant general. One more step, and he would be standing where his father stood now. From the flattery of the officials around him, he learned that he had become the youngest lieutenant general in the history of the demon race. He had thought this time it was guaranteed. Surely his father would finally acknowledge him. Yet what he got was still the same cold response. All those years of bottled up emotion finally exploded out of him. "No matter what I do, will I never earn your approval?" Meanwhile, the human commander actually stood nearby watching the scene unfold like he was enjoying the drama. Huo, and still did not answer. Instead, he only urged him again in a heavy voice. "Get out of here now. He's far too strong." At that moment, Huo Wujun looked like a man who would kill anything in his path. In his eyes, anyone who dared trample on Yongguo deserved to die. The instant he finished speaking, he burst forward. Huoan's expression changed immediately, but by then it was already too late to stop him. "You idiot brat! You have no idea how strong that human really is." Seeing Huo Wujun charge straight at them, the enemy side immediately shifted into combat stance. A cold flash passed through Huo Wujun's eyes, and with speed pushed to the absolute limit. The two deputies standing beside the man were taken down in the blink of an eye. The man's face changed on the spot, and even the armor on his body was sliced apart in the same exchange. Huo An and Wei Ming were just as shocked. Huo Wujun had erased the human commander's two aides with a single move. In that moment, the whole battlefield fell silent, and the man finally realized that Huo Wujun was nothing like an ordinary demon. Then, powered by spiritual force, Huo Wujun hovered in the air on winged momentum as a Demon King-class skill activated. The man hurriedly drew his sword to respond, because he knew that if he hesitated even 1 second, he would probably die on the spot. At the same time, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth began to gather wildly toward Huo Wujun. Watching this, Huoen suddenly felt as though he no longer recognized his own son. Since when had Wujun completely surpassed him? By then, the S-rank Demon King Dragon-type skill was fully prepared, and Huo Wujun now completely suppressed the humans present. Huo, and could not help recalling the times when Huo Wujun took first place and then came running to find him afterward. Back then, after Wujun turned and left, Huon had really smiled so hard his mouth nearly split open. "That's my son. Not one bit of my good blood was wasted." Who would have thought that Huo Wujun would suddenly run back in just to retrieve his exam paper? That old fox Huo had instantly changed faces and said in a solemn tone, "Wujun, when I named you Wujun, I only wanted you to live an ordinary, peaceful life. So why did you end up becoming so interested in the military?" General Huo, young Master Wujun has taken first place in the military exam. Huo and had clearly been thrilled deep down, yet he still could not help sighing. "I knew this kid would make it, but all of this is so far from the life I once imagined for him." The subordinate standing nearby was completely baffled. In their eyes, every time the old man spoke about Wujun's progress in the army, his emotions became so tangled that no one could make sense of them. The bitterness in Huoen's heart could only be poured out before his late wife's grave. Wujun, why did he have to choose the most dangerous road of all and become a soldier too. And yet the boy is truly a genius. First place every single time. He really is our son. I spent all those years focused on war outside and forgot to stay with you and him. But why did you have to leave so early? I truly don't know how I'm supposed to treat Wu Jun now. All I ever wanted was for him to live an easy and carefree life. And at that very moment, Huo Wu Jun fully unleashed Dragon Breath. The human man instantly felt an overwhelming force crashing toward him. In the next second, a destructive pillar of energy blasted forward. The human man took Huo Wu Jun's attack head-on. Floating in the air, Huo Wu Jun looked down coldly and declared with killing intent, "This is the price for trampling on Yongguo." But in the very next second, Huowen's eyes suddenly widened when the blast from Huo Wu Jun finally cleared. A massive blade wrapped in golden energy appeared before everyone's eyes, and the man behind it stood there completely unharmed. A grin spread across his face as he chuckled. Now that's more like it. Finally, a demon with at least a little challenge in him. At this point, he was visibly thrilled. "Good. I'll use you to make my entrance." As he spoke, he shifted into an attacking stance, clearly intending to have some real fun with Huo Wu Jun. Huowen's expression changed instantly, disbelief flashing through his eyes. He had seen that weapon before, in old records. Huo Wu Jun, however, had clearly not sensed the real danger yet. There was no way Huowen was going to watch such an outstanding son die here, and he shouted in alarm, "Wu Jun, watch that blade!" But before he could even finish, the man had already swung it once. Huo Wu Jun's eyes flew wide open. The entire building behind him had been sliced cleanly in half, as easily as cutting through tofu. A thunderous collapse followed from behind, and Huo Wu Jun was completely shaken. Liu Bingyi and Wei Ming cried out at the same time. That strike was terrifying. Go check on them. But Huo Wu Jun was still frozen in place because he suddenly realized that his father, Huoen, was standing directly in front of him, shielding him with his body. Huoen looked at him, and his voice was gentler than it had ever been. "Wu Jun, I was wrong. All this time, I forgot to tell you this. You were the greatest pride of my life." The moment he heard those words, tears poured down Huo Wu Jun's face, because just now, in order to block that strike for him, Huoen had already lost an arm. Huo Wu Jun had never imagined his father would go this far for him. Yet in sharp contrast to Huo Wu Jun's tears, Huoen was smiling, a truly joyful smile. "You really are the finest warrior, and one day, you will become the greatest demon general in this world. So, you have to live." In the next second, a protective barrier instantly unfolded around Huo Wu Jun. Huoen had already recognized the weapon in that man's hand. It came from the abyss of sin, and it had almost certainly slain demon kings above 3S rank. Against something like that, forget Huo Wu Jun. Even the full might of Yongguo combined might not stand a chance. And the protection now wrapped around Huo Wu Jun was the final safeguard Huoen had prepared over decades. Something that could only be described as absolute defense. Huo Wu Jun cried even harder, because the name of that skill was Wall of Life-Breaking Union. Everything behind the wall would gain 10,000 points of defense, but the price of casting it was the user's life. Then, little by little, the skin on Huowen's face began to crack apart. And even so, he had finally done the one thing he had sworn to do all those years ago. From the moment Wu Jun was born, he had vowed to spend his life protecting that child and protecting Yongguo. At that moment, Wei Ming suddenly charged forward from behind Huoen. He threw his arms around Huo Wu Jun and Liu Bingyi, shielding them both as he shouted, "Go! Don't let Huoen's sacrifice be for nothing!" The human man only let out a low chuckle. "A cooked duck still thinks it can fly away? You've got to be kidding me. None of what you've shown me so far is enough to satisfy me. I still haven't seen the look of true despair on your faces yet." But before he could finish, a voice suddenly came from behind him. "General, no need to rush. We can't let them die that easily." The man turned and saw that the newcomer was none other than Qiangdu Cao. Qiangdu Cao stepped forward slowly, wearing a flattering smile. "What this bunch of idiots has been risking their lives to protect is nothing more than this demon essence. I've personally brought it here to offer it to you. All I ask in return is a chance to join the human army." But the human commander was obviously no fool. There was no way he would trust him that easily, and he immediately pressed his blade to Qiangdu Cao's throat. Qiangdu Cao forced out a confident smile anyway. "Our Chang clan has been the hereditary guardian of Yongguo's demon essence for generations. Ever since the first demon king, Liu Yun, unified the demon continent, my ancestors have stood beside him as the most trusted founding marshals of the realm. Every demon king has always had 3 great demon generals, one skilled in magic and governance, one skilled in war and battle. And yet only the Qiang clan, without overwhelming magic or unmatched combat power, has always held one of those seats. The reason is this demon essence. Surely that alone is enough to prove my sincerity, because within the demon essence left behind by Liu Yun, the blood of our founding marshal Qiang Long, still remains. Only the Qiang clan can unlock it, or bestow it upon someone else. At those words, genuine interest finally flickered in the human man's eyes. Of course, he had heard of demon essence. It was a massive energy core formed from the demon race's fate and spiritual power. Every single demon essence required the crystal of an ancient demon king as its foundation, followed by refinement through generations. A true top-tier demon essence often needed decades, sometimes even 100 years or more, to be born. The man stared coldly at Chengdu Cao. "And you're just handing over something that valuable to me? Do you really take me for an idiot?" Under that murderous stare, Chengdu Cao's confidence wavered instantly. He was clearly terrified the man might cut him down the moment he said the wrong thing. All he could do was force his trembling body to keep moving and put on a pathetic act. Sorry. I was so scared I nearly dropped the demon essence." Then he even started crying. "I just want to stay alive. I'm too weak. I don't have powerful magic, and I don't have a strong body. Someone as frail as me wouldn't even survive using the demon essence. Just trying to activate it could cost me my life." When Liu Bingyi saw this, she fell into complete despair and shouted, "Uncle Qiang, have you lost your mind? That man just slaughtered so many of our people with his own hands. How can you betray your own race and wag your tail at a human? He's the enemy who personally chopped off your own brother's head. Don't you have even a shred of pride left in you?" After hearing that, the human man's eyes shifted slightly, like something had suddenly clicked in his mind. He had known Chengdu Cao's face looked strangely familiar. In the next second, he planted his foot on the fat man's head. "That fat bastard, your brother?" Then he kicked it away like he was punting a ball. The severed head rolled all the way across the ground before finally stopping in front of Chengdu Cao. But the expression on Chengdu Cao's face turned disturbingly strange. Serves him right. He had it coming. Who told him to provoke someone stronger than himself? We already knew from the start that we were no match for humanity, so this war should never have happened. A wise man submits to the times, doesn't he? Only fools choose to resist. Hearing that, the man burst into laughter so hard he nearly pissed himself. "Good. Excellent. Then handing something like this over to a man like you really was the smart choice." With a cold chuckle, he grabbed the demon essence in his hand. "In that case, I'll gladly accept it." But at that moment, Chengdu Cao's eyes were already bloodshot. In the next second, he bit open his own finger and shouted sharply, "Everyone, protect yourselves!" As someone who had worked beside him for decades, Wei Ming understood instantly. He immediately cast his floral art and erected an absolute defense barrier. Liu Bingyi and Huo Wujun were both completely stunned. They could not make sense of any of it. Hadn't this man already betrayed the nation? But before either of them could react, a shield had already expanded to cover all four of them. Blood was still pouring from Chengdu Cao's bitten finger as he roared, "Demon essence, activate!" The human man's face changed instantly. He threw the demon essence away at once. Then all 8 faces of the demon essence began radiating blinding light at the same time. The man nearly pissed himself in terror. What the hell is this? In the next second, he was swallowed whole by the overwhelming brilliance. Chengdu Xiao stared forward, his voice beginning to tremble. "Our Qiang clan has been waiting for this moment all along, because this is the one thing only I can do. For generations, our family has lived under the grace of the demon race. Now, it's finally time to repay that debt." From a distance, the center of the city suddenly bloomed into a blinding sphere of white light. A violent energy storm burst outward, even bending around the barrier Wei Ming had cast. With nowhere else to go, that destructive force spread wildly in every direction. Any soldier struck head-on by it was instantly disintegrated into particles. Neither the human nor demon soldiers had any time to react. On the city walls, the demons stood frozen in shock. What the hell just happened? In the next instant, everyone saw a mushroom cloud rise straight into the sky. Then thunder cracked overhead, lightning tore through the clouds, and rain started pouring down. At the very center of the explosion, as the smoke slowly began to clear, a kneeling figure gradually came into view. Chengdu Cao's entire body was burning with flames. Barely clinging to life, he was charred black from head to toe. Yet he still forced out that this had already been his absolute limit. Even so, he had only managed to draw out 1% of the demon essence's power. As for Huo En and the other 3, they had narrowly survived thanks to Wei Ming's protection. Chengdu Cao's life had already reached its end, and the only thing left in him was bitter unwillingness. But in the very next second, an S-rank thunder dragon appeared at the center of the blast and spread its wings wide, shielding the man completely. That was his S-rank skill. Absolute defense. For 30 full seconds, it could block any and all damage. Then, with a thunderous dragon roar, the man stepped out completely unharmed. He said coldly, "You made the worst choice possible. Before you even knew what cards your opponent was holding, you showed your whole hand first. That's the stupidest way to fight he's ever seen." With that, He slowly began walking toward Kyangdu Sao, summoning the very last bit of strength in his body. Kyangdu Sao still tried to reach for the demon essence, but at that moment, a bolt of golden lightning struck the demon essence, and in the next second, it flew straight into the man's hand. "Are you ready to face the consequences?" the man asked coldly. Kyangdu Sao was filled with unwillingness, but he truly had done everything he could. After killing Kyangdu Sao, even the man himself had not expected to walk away from this trip with a demon essence in hand. It really was a place worthy of having once given birth to a demon king. After putting the demon essence away, he prepared to move on to the next stage of his plan. He ordered the thunder dragon that had just protected him to make its move, but the creature did not budge. "What? Can't bring yourself to attack your own kind?" In the next instant, a metal spider suddenly burrowed into the thunder dragon's body. The thunder dragon immediately let out a pained roar, its eyes turning blood red as it locked onto Huo Wujun and the others. Seeing that, Wei Ming quickly activated his skill to resist it no matter what happened. He had to protect Liu Bingyi and the others. The man's expression darkened at once. To him, this was nothing less than open defiance. The next second, his entire body turned into a streak of lightning. In an instant, Wei Ming coughed up blood as a hand punched straight through his chest. At the same time, an icy voice came from behind him. "He'll teach you what real war looks like." Huo En reacted the fastest and launched an attack immediately. Yet the man still neutralized it with effortless ease. Then he activated another piece of black tech equipment, the Judgment Eye. Huo En's combat stats instantly appeared before him. 1, 484 strength, and 1,456 stamina. "Not that high," he said coldly. "But I guess those are the numbers you're so proud of. In that case, I'll cripple your strength first." As Huon's arm was violently twisted out of shape, a scream tore out of his throat. Right then, several flower petals suddenly shot toward the man. The one attacking was actually Huo Wujun, but it was useless. He lunged at empty air as the man turned into a bolt of lightning and vanished right in front of him. Huo Wujun's eyes widened in shock, and at the same time, the man's Judgment Eye locked onto him. 2 of Huo Wujun's stats were actually above 2,700, and he even possessed the potential of a demon king. The man let out a low chuckle. "What a shame, but you're a speed-type demon. Over 2,700? That's actually not bad. You're probably the fastest demon in all of Yongguo, aren't you?" Then he raised one leg and kicked Huo Wujun away in a single brutal blow. Blood burst from Huo Wujun's mouth before he slammed heavily into the ground. In the very next second, the man stepped down hard on top of him. "If that's the case, then I'll destroy your speed." The cracking sound of 3 bones snapping rang out, and Huo Wujun let out a scream so painful, it sounded like he was being torn apart alive. You don't seriously think ants can shake a tree, do you? Every single one of his stats crushes yours. What exactly are you using to fight him? In the next second, Huo Wujun's eyes went wide. Countless copies of the man had already surrounded them from all sides. It was basically a gods and demons world version of shadow clones. As long as there was enough lightning in the area, he could keep generating lightning clones without end. Every single clone had the exact same senses and power as the original, and the original body could switch freely between any of them. The moment Wei Ming saw that, he fell into complete despair. Liu Bingyi was even worse off. She was being pinched in the man's hand like a tiny ant. Then the man asked a soul-piercing question. He often wonders, when you're all this weak, why do you even deserve to stay alive in this world? After going through that brutally cruel childhood, the man had long since decided that their only value was to entertain him. Honestly, the guy was not just a monster. His mind was twisted beyond saving too. Liu Bingyi had already gone numb with despair, and then the man sent her flying with another vicious kick. Huo, and said this time they had lost, but he was not afraid of death. If he could die together with everyone else, then to him, that was almost a kind of blessing. The man sneered. "No wonder you're a demon general who protects the nation. Even after all this, you're still standing that straight. That's some backbone. But if you just give up now, then this stops being fun." As he said that, the man turned and set his sights on Huo Wujun. He grabbed Huo Wujun by the hair and sneered, "That's your son, isn't it?" Huo's face changed instantly. The man flashed a smile straight out of a nightmare and said he could spare Huo Wujun's life on one condition. Huo and had to kneel and beg. Huo and clenched his teeth so hard his jaw trembled, while Huo Wujun would rather die than watch his father suffer that kind of humiliation. The man reminded Huo and that this was his only chance, so he'd better think very carefully before deciding. Then, with a heavy thud, Huo and dropped straight to his knees. "Then keep your word." Huo Wujun froze on the spot. He was completely stunned. The man turned back toward him and let out a sick, twisted laugh. "And what about you? Want to save your old man? You've got the same chance." Huo Wujun roared back at him, telling him to get the hell away. But in the very next second, the man drove his sword straight into Huon's body. Then he started counting down while attacking him again and again. one strike after another. Huo Wujun completely broke down. And when the man counted to 7, he finally could not take it anymore and dropped to his knees too. Huge tears crashed to the ground as he begged in despair. Please, stop. Watching all of this from behind, Liu Bingyi could not stop her own tears from falling either. At that moment, who was left to save them? Who could still save Yonggu? She was supposed to be the lofty daughter of the demon sovereign, yet now she and her loyal subjects had been reduced to bait. That man could torment them however he pleased, and they had no way to resist. All she could do was watch Huan and Huo Wujun get toyed with like playthings. The man let out a fake little sigh. Well now, both of you are kneeling. That makes this really hard for him, so which one should he let go? Huan's heart pounded wildly. Then, without hesitation, he threw himself toward the man's blade. He was trying to trade his own life for one last chance of survival for Huo Wujun. Huo Wujun shattered completely. He never thought Huan would go that far, all just to leave behind one final plea. Let Wujun go. The man instantly looked annoyed. What's with this old bastard? Who said he was allowed to throw himself onto the blade? That's against the rules. Then he yanked the sword back out, fully dropping the ACT dot. It was obvious now. This piece of trash had been playing with them from the very beginning. And now, he declares. But before he could finish, the furious Huo Wujun had already charged at him. The result was obvious. The man stabbed him with effortless ease. The next game begins now. Seeing that, Liu Bingyi cried out on instinct. The scene immediately cut to a close-up. Wei Ming and Liu Bingyi could do nothing except stand there with tears running down their faces. They were too weak. So weak they could not do a single thing. In the next second, the man drove iron chains deep into the ground. Then Liu Bingyi and the others were hoisted up like dead dogs, hanging helplessly in the air. At that moment, the man looked like a weapon with no emotion at all. No, worse than a weapon. He was something crueler, filthier, more twisted. He thought back to the masterpieces of his childhood, small animals hanging all across an entire wall. Only then had he ever felt truly powerful. At that moment, Huo Wujun took another sword strike, and a miserable scream tore out of his mouth. He already looked half dead, yet the man only showed a sick grin. Relax. He'll avoid the vital spots. Let's just see how many more hits you can survive. The bastard was clearly planning to carve Huo Wujun apart bit by bit. Then he turned toward the controlled Thunder Dragon. Hey, get over here. Under that control, even the Thunder Dragon could only lower its noble head and prepare for the so-called final celebration. Calling Vice Captain Baoli. You people should be about done playing over there, right? Inform the entire army. Move now. But in the very next second, the man's eyes narrowed sharply because a completely different voice came through the earpiece. Damn, you've really grown bold. You actually dared to stage a rebellion? Who is this? Where's Baoli? Where the hell is Baoli? For the first time, the man was visibly rattled. Then a voice suddenly came from behind him. Baoli is right here. The man spun around in a hurry, only to see the protagonist who had been gone for over a month, Sha Fengliao. And on Sha Fengliao's body was none other than an S-rank Slaughter King set. Sha Fengliao spoke in a voice as cold as ice. He already understands most of what happened here. He just never thought that for the sake of grabbing power, you could do something this inhuman. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Sha Fengliao's finger joints tightened until they nearly cracked. His face was so dark, it looked like the bottom of a scorched pot. It was all his fault. He got them killed. Only then did Sha Fengliao notice that the man had been sitting on top of the Thunder Dragon's head the whole time. The man, meanwhile, looked completely confused. What the hell are you talking about? Rebellion? Are you out of your mind? This is war! But Sha Fengliao clearly could not care less about listening anymore. He only muttered coldly. He should have known long ago. A beast will always be a beast. Every single crime you've committed is enough to get you sliced to death. The man felt his scalp go numb. Only one thought remained in his head. Another piece of trash showed up, so just kill him already. In the next second, he vanished from the Thunder Dragon's head and flashed straight in front of Sha Fengliao. That disgusting, twisted smile spread across his face once again, but what greeted him was a crushing punch from Sha Fengliao. The blow hit so hard it left him stunned on the spot. Just how terrifying was that strength? Sha Fengliao did not stop there. He slammed the man to the ground and started beating him mercilessly. The man's brain practically shut down from the beating, and his entire mind went blank. What the hell is wrong with this guy? Sha Fengliao looked down at Baoli from above and said coldly, So where should he start? Coup and rebellion, violating women, abusing prisoners, murdering teammates. Which charge do you think he should begin the execution with? Even now, Baoli still had no clue what kind of madness Sha Fengliao was talking about, especially since Sha Fengliao was currently pinning him down and beating the hell out of him. The more Baoli thought about it, the more he felt something was deeply wrong with Sha Fengliao, because this demon was nothing like the others. Ever since their first meeting, Sha Fengliao had seemed strangely concerned about what was happening on the human side. Baoli never could have imagined that, despite holding overwhelming power, he would be completely unable to fight back in front of Sha Fengliao. Maybe this really was his punishment for poisoning his comrade and superior on the man's wedding night. He had even forced several burly men to violate the bride to death right in front of her groom. After that, he had his superior sliced apart alive, and the whole thing was done to pin the crime on their captain. Then he took the captain's everything for himself, including his weapon and battle pet. Not long ago, Baoli had even been preparing to force himself on a married demon woman, puckering up that absurd, disgusting mouth of his as he moved in. He had also created 2 ice puppets to hold the woman's son in place, planning to show the demon child what a real man looked like right in front of him. That alone said everything about how twisted he was inside. At the time, the woman had already fallen into total despair and had no way to resist. But right then, Baoli's ice puppets suddenly exploded into pieces. It was Sha Fengliao. With one punch, he saved the child. The moment Baoli realized his fun had been interrupted, he flew into a rage. "If you're that blind, then try this!" In the next second, a gigantic A-rank ice puppet appeared in front of Sha Fengliao. Baoli sneered. This ice puppet was made with half his blood, and it holds half his power. That's more than enough to. But before he could even finish, Sha Fengliao had already thrown his punch, and the skill Cloud Gale activated instantly. With a thunderous boom, the ice puppet was one-shotted on the spot. Baoli's eyes bulged wide as he shouted in disbelief, "Impossible! That makes no sense!" But what answered him was a gaping, bloody hole blasted straight through his chest, one nearly 2 feet wide. Baoli spun through the air like a windmill before crashing away and falling directly into a near-death state. At the same time, the system awarded Sha Fengliao 500,000 experience. His level shot up to 12, and he gained 12 freely assignable stat points. That meant Sha Fengliao now had a total of 132 freely assignable stat points still unused. Right after that, the system granted him the Demon King's level 12 King Pack and displayed a prompt, "New skill acquired. Equip new S-rank skill." The new skill copy was then unlocked. It allowed him to replace that skill with any ability from an opponent he had defeated, and it was not restricted by elemental affinity. Looking at Baoli, who only had 1 breath left in him, Sha Fengliao finally spoke in an icy voice. "Now tell him the truth. What exactly happened to his army?" The original captain of the 551st Army was Sha Fengliao, and the vice captain was Manhwa. Baoli gasped for breath and said, "Half a month ago, Vice Captain Manhwa held his engagement banquet outside the command tent. That was the day they made their move. Captain Sha Fengliao didn't show up that night, which gave them the perfect chance. After everyone got drunk, he and Shin Jibiao slipped into the vice captain's tent and forced Manhwa to join them in reporting Sha Fengliao to the guild council. They wanted to accuse the captain of taking bribes from a neighboring country and plotting treason. As for the so-called evidence, he had already planted it in Sha Fengliao's room ahead of time. They even tried to tempt Manhwa. If he reported it with them, Sha Fengliao would be taken away for investigation. Then Manhwa would become captain. He would become vice captain, and all the military merit from this Yongguo campaign would belong to them. At that point, Baoli mocked Manhwa's response with a sneer. "Are you people insane? That's a capital offense. You really dare joke about something like that?" But that guy was stubborn to the bone. No matter what, he refused to betray Sha Fengliao. Baoli bared his teeth in a grin. So he told Manhwa. Did he really think they were there to negotiate? The bride panicked and tried to stop them, but Shin Jibiao and Baoli had no intention of backing down. They even threatened to kill both of them. In the next second, purple energy started leaking out of Manhwa's body. Right after that, he began coughing up blood non-stop. The wine he drank had already been laced with a heavy dose of drugs, and he never even noticed. So he asked Manhwa one last time whether he wanted to join them and drag Sha Fengliao down. Manhwa gave him only one answer: go to hell. Until the very end, Manhwa never gave in. After that, Manhwa and his fiancée were tortured to death by them. And even in his final moments, Manhwa never said a single bad word about Sha Fengliao. When it was over, they deliberately left Sha Fengliao's dagger at the scene and then created a disturbance. By the time the others rushed over, he pretended he had just arrived too. But Manhwa was already hanging on by his last breath. So they immediately spun a story, saying Manhwa had discovered Sha Fengliao's rebellion, which was why Sha Fengliao panicked and killed him to silence him. And just like that, a setup full of holes somehow worked. Afterward, Shin Jibiao dumped every charge onto Sha Fengliao and led the army straight to Sha Fengliao's headquarters, planning to act first and explain later. But what they didn't expect was that Sha Fengliao wasn't even in the tent at the time. So they changed the story again and claimed Sha Fengliao had fled in a panic, meaning he was escaping out of guilt. so hurriedly that he even left his personal weapon behind in the tent. Then Shin Jibiao pinned even more crimes on him: attempted treason, violating a comrade's wife, and murdering a comrade. After that, he used all of it to request the highest level wanted order from above. That was how Sha Fengliao became a criminal within the army, while his weapon was taken by Shin Jibiao. Right after that, the army replaced its leader on the eve of battle, and somehow it all looked perfectly justified. And with his father pulling strings behind the scenes, Shin Jibiao successfully rose to the position of Supreme Commander. At that point, Bailey could not help asking, still he's curious, why are you so interested in human affairs? And what about everyone else? Didn't anyone question what really happened? Bailey suddenly burst into laughter. You mean those brain-dead followers? Of course they just made up some excuse and butchered them all. He went on with open contempt. Seriously, what kind of era is this? And people still cling to that blind loyalty crap. In an army, do right and wrong, or the truth, really matter that much? After saying all that, Bailey immediately switched to a flattering tone. He's already said everything he was supposed to say, so they can let him down now, right? As long as you spare him, he can even talk to the new captain and convince him to leave you alive. In the next second, Sha Fengliao personally found him a job in the palace and confiscated the tool he had used for his crimes. Baoli instantly let out a string of blood-curdling screams. The agony made his eyes go bloodshot on the spot. Ah, you lunatic, what are you doing? No, his junk. Put it back. Put it back right now. Just then, a demon woman came rushing over. General Sha, she said urgently. This is the battle suit you gave to General Wei Ming. He's been keeping it for you all this time. He foresaw a great disaster coming to Yongguo this time, so he told me to hide in the cellar and wait for you. He said that if you returned, I had to hand this equipment over to you immediately, then tell you to leave Yonggu with it and flee as far away as possible. He said you might be the demon race's last hope, so no matter what, you must not die in this battle. But he just received a magic transmission from General Wei Ming, and General Wei Ming has probably already met with disaster. Hearing that, Sha Fengliao immediately put on the S-rank Slaughter King set. Infernal Demon Mask, plus 50 elemental power, and plus 10% to all resistances. Heavenly Demon Scale Armor, plus 50 stamina, blocks 1 fatal blow, and grants 25% damage reflection. Heavenly Demon Weapon, plus 50 strength, plus 20% lifesteal, and comes with the skill Heavenly Demon Shift, which can alter the form of all equipment on his body. Wind Demon Boots, plus 50 speed, and reduces all incoming physical damage by 20%. Right after that, Sha Fengliao used Heavenly Demon Shift to disguise the full set as ordinary clothing, then grabbed Baoli by the hair and dragged him along like a dead dog. The woman hurriedly called out, General Sha, you're going the wrong way. The city gate is over there. You need to leave now. But Sha Fengliao only answered coldly, He's not running. Take him to Shin Jibiao. Baoli trembled from the pain, yet still forced himself to shout, You lunatic! Do you really think you can beat Captain Jin? He'll smash you into a pile of meat. But Shin Jibiao never imagined that even with thousands upon thousands of clones, he still could not hold the line for more than a few exchanges. His opponent was only one man, Sha Fengliao. Yet Sha Fengliao possessed a similar ability too, one copied from the skill of Shin Jibiao's teammate. That left Baoli utterly stunned. Then Sha Fengliao brought his foot down in one brutal stomp, and one of Shin Jibiao's clones was destroyed on the spot. Baoli could not make sense of it, no matter how hard he tried. Why did Sha Fengliao care so much about human affairs? Who exactly was this guy? His combat power was terrifying beyond reason. After all, Shin Jibiao's clones were supposed to possess the same strength as the original body. Shin Jibiao immediately activated his black tech scanner. He wanted to see exactly what kind of stats his opponent had, but the reading made Sha Fengliao look like nothing more than an A+ rank elite demon, with barely over 4100 strength, while the rest of his stats looked downright mediocre. Shin Jibiao let out a smug chuckle. In his eyes, Sha Fengliao's speed was only half of his own, at best. No matter how he looked at it, the guy was just an ordinary, elite-class demon. In the next second, he launched several lightning shadow clones and sent them lunging straight at Sha Fengliao. Judging from the numbers on the panel, the only reason Sha Fengliao had reacted earlier must have been pure luck. But luck was not something that could keep saving him forever. A heartbeat later, those clones were already right behind Sha Fengliao. But Sha Fengliao only threw a casual punch, and all of the clones were swept away at once. They flew backward for a full 50 meters before slamming hard into the ground. Shin Jibiao froze in shock. Something was wrong. Based on the numbers, Sha Fengliao should not have been faster than him at all. What exactly was going on with this demon? At that moment, Shin Jibiao felt like his entire worldview was about to collapse. Sha Fengliao spoke coldly. Now it's his turn. Terrified of death, Shin Jibiao had already retreated behind the Thunder Dragon. His mind raced. Sha Fengliao's strength stat should not have been enough to overpower him, and his clones practically shared the same attributes as the original body. The only thing the scanner could not read was the fortune stat. So where exactly had things gone wrong? Going by the panel, there was no way he should have been the one getting overwhelmed. And yet the one being beaten down was him, with his weapon bonus added in. His strength was clearly above 400, more than 1,300 points higher than Sha Fengliao's. His speed was over 2,000 points higher. So no matter how he compared them, he should have been the one doing the crushing. No, he had to test it again. With that thought, Shin Jibiao set himself up for another strike. Then a flash of lightning burst out, and Shin Jibiao instantly teleported behind Sha Fengliao's head, clearly planning to launch a sneak attack. Unfortunately for him, Sha Fengliao was even faster. One punch came crashing straight down onto his head. Right after that, Sha Fengliao slammed him into the ground and beat him mercilessly. Meanwhile, Shin Jibiao's real body kept hiding behind the Thunder Dragon, left with nothing but dread. This was too abnormal. What hidden stat was Sha Fengliao carrying? Sha Fengliao said coldly, "You're still the same as ever, way too dependent on that garbage data." And according to Sha Fengliao's status panel, because he possessed the title of Demon King of the Demon Race, all of his attributes gained an extra threefold bonus, and that bonus could not be detected at all. In other words, Sha Fengliao's real stats put his strength close to 16 Tom O, while his speed was at least around 5,600. Against that, Shin Jibiao's pathetic 3,700 speed was obviously going to get crushed. Sha Fengliao then threw out one final cold line. "Don't assume you can see everything." At that moment, thunder roared through the sky, and rain came crashing down as Shin Jibiao finally lost it. He howled like a madman. He doesn't believe it. He refuses to believe he can't even land a single hit on you. But before he could finish, a punch the size of a sandbag smashed straight into his face and warped it on impact. His clones had completely turned into Sha Fengliao's punching bags, sent flying one after another before slamming brutally into the ground. Sha Fengliao looked terrifyingly calm, but beneath that calm was a storm violent enough to drown everything in its path. Gritting his teeth, Shin Jibiao sent out another lightning shadow clone, this one armed with a weapon. He refused to believe Sha Fengliao could stay that fast forever, but in the very next second, Sha Fengliao was already standing right behind that clone. Shin Jibiao's face changed in horror, and then that clone was blasted away all over again. After getting crushed again and again, Shin Jibiao finally understood one thing. There was no way he could face Sha Fengliao head-on. His mind turned quickly. No matter what secrets Sha Fengliao was hiding, he was still someone standing on Liu Bingyi's side. So Shin Jibiao shamelessly decided to take hostages and force Sha Fengliao into submission. With a vicious grin, he sneered, "Hey, your master is in his hands now." As he said that, he grabbed Liu Bingyi by the throat. Guo Wujun looked at him with pure contempt. "So when you meet someone you can't beat, this cheap garbage is all you know how to do?" Shin Jibiao's face darkened at that. He cared about pride too, but in the end, he still yanked hard on the iron chain wrapped around Liu Bingyi's neck. Sha Fengliao only felt that a piece of filth like this would not be redeemed, even if he died 10,000 times over. What an ancient, disgusting little stunt. Shin Jibiao was clearly terrified, yet his cowardly, bullying nature was on full display. Take one more step, and they both die. As he said that, he also tightened the iron chain around Huo Wujun, making a choking rattle spill out of his throat. Liu Bingyi and Huo Wujun were both on the verge of being strangled to death. A sick smile spread across Shin Jibiao's face again. "Come on, aren't you supposed to be so capable? Then hit him." He kept pulling the chains tighter as he sneered. "No matter how fast you are, there's still only one of you. If you rush in to save one, he'll kill the other immediately." At that moment, Shin Jibiao clearly thought he had Sha Fengliao completely cornered. "So, which one are you going to choose?" Sha Fengliao's hand trembled slightly, rainwater dripping from his clenched fist. Then, in the next instant, he exploded forward in a single step. Shin Jibiao nearly pissed himself in fear. Damn it, he really came straight at him. Huo Wujun roared with everything he had left, telling Sha Fengliao to save Liu Bingyi first. But just then, Sha Fengliao slowly raised two fingers, with a wet, brutal sound. Those fingers drove straight into the eye socket of one of Shin Jibiao's clones. Huo Wujun never imagined that Sha Fengliao would move to save him first. The clone with its eye socket blown open screamed as it flew backward, then slammed hard into the ground. Huo Wujun stared in shock and blurted out, "Why did you save him first? What about Liu Bingyi?" In the very next second, the whole mood flipped. Sha Fengliao said coldly, "Who said he was only saving one?" By then, Liu Bingyi had already been rescued by an ice puppet. The Shin Jibiao clone holding her had been run straight through on the puppet's ice blade. A few crisp slashes later, the clone was chopped to pieces, and the cutting force from the blade severed the chains in the same motion. Sha Fengliao said calmly, Relax. He got both of them out. Baoli was completely dumbfounded. An ice puppet? How is that possible? That's my exclusive skill. When the hell did you learn it? This makes no damn sense. There's no way you should be able to use that. At the same time, another one of Shinjibiao's clones had already appeared above the ice puppet's head, clearly trying to one-shot it with a single strike. But in the next second, the ice puppet smashed its fist straight into that clone's head. Sha Fengliao said flatly, "Forgot to mention it. That ice puppet is just as strong as he is." The truth was, back when Baoli had only one breath left, Sha Fengliao had already been weighing which of Baoli's skills would be the best one to copy. Judging from the result, he had clearly chosen right. Only then did Baoli finally realize that his skill had already been copied by Sha Fengliao. Blood Ice Puppet was a dark cloud-type skill Baoli had stumbled across in a demon cavern. It was incredibly powerful, but it had two fatal weaknesses. First, it consumed the user's own blood. Second, it could only be activated where water elements were present, and the puppet's strength was directly tied to how much blood the user sacrificed. Since Sha Fengliao had just said that the ice puppet was as strong as he was, that meant he must have drained nearly all his blood to create it. In other words, Sha Fengliao should have been nothing more than a total glass cannon right now. Baoli panicked and shouted, "Captain, forget the ice puppet. Attack his real body. He used my skill, which means this is when he's at his weakest." Shinjibiao instantly lit up. "So that's it. You're just bluffing. As long as he lands one hit, you're dead." Just like that, he felt like he was back in control again. But Sha Fengliao did not care in the slightest. Then, with a sharp rush of air, another clone shot straight toward him. Whether it was because the speed was too fast or for some other reason, that clone actually pierced straight through Sha Fengliao's body. Shinjibiao could not understand it. He clearly had countless powerful clones, and yet Sha Fengliao had still been treating them like punching bags. That was because every bit of damage and pain suffered by those clones was sent back to the real body. Sha Fengliao had clearly figured that out already, which was why he was not rushing to hunt down Shinjibiao's true body. Instead, he started butchering the clones one by one. He intended to slice Shinjibiao apart 1,000 times over. Just moments ago, Shinjibiao had finally managed to land a hit. He had thought that this time, Sha Fengliao was definitely finished and that he had won the gamble. But in the next second, a completely out-of-place voice sounded behind him. "Keep going." Shinjibiao's face twisted in disbelief. What the hell is going on? He should be on the verge of death. That last hit definitely connected. Right after that, another 5 or 6 clones charged at Sha Fengliao all at once. Unfortunately, Shinjibiao was just too weak. Even his critical hits only dealt around 300 damage, and some barely broke 1,000. To Sha Fengliao, that was nothing but scratch damage. Sha Fengliao looked at him without any expression and asked coldly, "Got any more?" The more Shinjibiao thought about it, the more something felt wrong, so he activated the Judgment Eye once again, but the result left him completely stunned. How was that possible? Sha Fengliao's HP was still full. This demon's stats were not just abnormal, even his entire presence felt deeply wrong. Sha Fengliao looked at him coldly. "Shinjibiao, are you done already?" As he spoke, a blue-black sword slowly formed in Sha Fengliao's hand, and just one look at it was enough to make anyone's scalp go numb. Shinjibiao was close to tears. He knew very well that in his current state, if Sha Fengliao got close, he would be torn apart alive. In the next second, he turned into a streak of lightning and fled on the spot. Looking at the lightning flashing across the sky, Shinjibiao suddenly felt a spark of hope, as if even heaven itself was taking his side. As long as there was enough lightning, he could keep creating more clones without end. If he stayed hidden among them, there was no way Sha Fengliao could kill them all by himself. Sha Fengliao, on the other hand, calmly cut open his own palm. Blood Ice Puppet activated, and so did the passive skill Rapid Recovery. Take care of these few for him. A giant ice puppet immediately moved to guard Liu Bingyi and the others. Only then did Baoli suddenly realize that ever since Sha Fengliao first appeared, he had been obsessively asking about what happened on the human side. And not only that, he understood Baoli's and Shinjibiao's skills far better than they did themselves. In other words, he did not feel like an ordinary demon at all. Sha Fengliao glanced up at the storm-filled sky and said coldly, "A thunderstorm doesn't only bring lightning, it brings endless water too." In the next second, even more ice puppets began appearing one after another. Sha Fengliao said calmly, "And every one of your stats is below his. So if there are this many versions of him here, how exactly are you planning to deal with that?" In the blink of an eye, the clones on both sides had formed a standoff. Shinjibiao grew even more furious and roared at his own copies. "Why aren't you attacking yet?" The next second, Sha Fengliao moved first. Heavenly Demon Shift activated, and the sword in his hand instantly transformed into a heavy blade that smashed into one of Shinjibiao's clones. Sha Fengliao said coldly, "He'll end this war soon." At that point, Shinjibiao's true body finally understood something clearly. Under no circumstances could he afford to clash with Sha Fengliao head-on anymore, because he had absolutely no chance of winning. Still, after all this fighting, Xin Jibiao had more or less figured out Sha Fengliao's ability, terrifying regeneration. He still lost HP when hit, but killing him by ordinary means was almost impossible. In other words, Sha Fengliao was not truly immortal, but Xin Jibiao's own 3S rank weapon could store energy, and it also possessed the ability to ignore defense. If he could fully charge it, then one strike would definitely be enough to kill Sha Fengliao instantly. So Xin Jibiao made his decision on the spot. From here on out, he only needed to keep dragging things out with his clones while secretly building up that stored energy. But in the very next second, an ice puppet appeared soundlessly behind him, its ice blade thrust forward and pierced straight through his chest. The attack scared Xin Jibiao so badly he nearly pissed himself. Lightning exploded all over his body as his true form instantly transferred into another clone. Trying to sound fierce, he roared, "He can shift instantly between his copies. You'll never be able to kill him." Seeing that, Bailey looked like he had suddenly found hope again. So that's it. Captain's been using lightning to keep making clones, then jumping back and forth between them. As long as he doesn't expose his real body on purpose, they'll never be able to kill him. Bailey looked like he had grabbed onto hope again and shouted in a rush, "The ice puppets have a time limit too! No matter how insane his HP is, there's no way he can keep creating them forever. You'll still lose to the captain. You'll never kill the captain." Sha Fengliao simply wrapped one hand around a clone's throat and slowly tightened his grip. Who said he was trying to kill him? He already told you. Every single crime you committed deserves death by slow slicing. Xin Jibiao felt a chill run straight through him. The sickest, most twisted memories from his childhood came flooding back. So, don't die too fast. If you die that easily, you won't get to enjoy this. It really was karma. Right now, Xin Jibiao was no different from those little animals that had once fallen into his hands. Sha Fengliao stared at him coldly. Every one of your clones is part of you. Every bit of pain they suffer gets sent back to you too, right? Xin Jibiao's face changed instantly. How did he know that? Sha Fengliao's voice was so cold, it carried no emotion at all. Coup and rebellion. Violating women. Abusing prisoners. Killing your own teammates. None of that gets erased just because you die once. The moment he finished speaking, Sha Fengliao ripped the head clean off the clone in his hand. Xin Jibiao's real body immediately let out a shrill scream. "It hurts!" Before he could recover, another clone was torn in half by the ice puppet on the spot. Then another one was chopped clean into 2 pieces. Sha Fengliao said coldly, "You should experience for yourself the pain of the people you hurt." Only then did Bailey finally realize what was really happening. From the very beginning, Sha Fengliao had never planned to kill Xin Jibiao outright. What he really wanted was to torture him piece by piece until he completely broke. Veins bulged on Xin Jibiao's forehead as curses kept spilling out of his mouth. Inside, all he could do was scream at himself. Hold on. Just hold on a little longer. Once he pours all the energy in, it'll be full. It'll be full soon. Meanwhile, that thunder dragon looked harmless on the surface, almost like some timid little rabbit. But in truth, it was a terrifying existence that could wipe out an entire city with a single breath. And yet now, that kind of monster had been ruthlessly controlled by humans. It had originally been living happily in the forest, only to suddenly realize that bad people had set their sights on it. Did you see that thunder dragon just now? It still got away. But what they did not know was that the thunder dragon was secretly watching them from up in the trees, practically gloating to itself. You think you can catch him? Then the moment it turned around, it nearly had its heart jump out of its chest. Young Sha Fengliao was sitting on a tree branch right there, casually eating potato chips. The thunder dragon immediately bared its fangs, clearly preparing to attack, but Sha Fengliao acted like he had not even seen it and just kept digging into his chips. Then he actually held them out. Want some? That completely short-circuited the thunder dragon. Lately, humans and demons had gone back to war over demon crystals, and plenty of people did not even have enough to eat anymore. No one would have expected someone as young as Sha Fengliao to already be carrying that kind of concern for the people and the nation in his heart. He genuinely wanted the war to end as soon as possible. And just like that, over time, one boy and one dragon became friends. Back in the present, Xin Jibiao's face had twisted beyond recognition. He stared at the SSS rank weapon in his hand, madness burning in his eyes again. This is an SSS rank weapon. If this blade comes down once, looking at the lightning coiling around it, Xin Jibiao burst into another wild laugh. With this one strike, the entire demon race will disappear. Sha Fengliao stood silently across from Xin Jibiao, facing him head-on, while the thunder dragon beside them watched the entire scene in silence as well. In the next second, Sha Fengliao suddenly spread his fingers wide, and the weapon Xin Jibiao had forcibly taken instantly returned to his hand. In that moment, He looked unbelievably cool, but Shinjibiao still had no idea how serious the situation had become and kept laughing like a madman. Then, in the very next second, the weapon in his hand began to shake violently. Shinjibiao did not even have time to react before the grip slipped free and landed firmly in Sha Fengliao's hand. The instant the weapon returned to him, Sha Fengliao's presence rose to an entirely new level. He said calmly, "Back where it belongs." Shinjibiao was completely dumbfounded. How is that possible? It was already bound to him. Sha Fengliao answered coldly. He should thank you for charging it up for him. With that, Sha Fengliao began walking towards Shinjibiao, weapon in hand, one slow step at a time. Then he slowly raised his right hand and lightly activated the weapon. A moment ago, Shinjibiao's clones had still been acting wildly arrogant, but now they were torn apart one after another like they had been dragged into a tornado. With a thunderous boom, a massive sphere of energy suddenly appeared. Not long after that, the dark clouds began to scatter, and the sky slowly cleared. The Thunder Dragon stared blankly at the scene, as if it had finally confirmed something, and murmured under its breath, "He knew it. It really was you." Then the Thunder Dragon slowly lowered its body, almost as though it were welcoming Sha Fengliao back. This was its true partner. In its eyes, the Sha Fengliao before it and the young Sha Fengliao from its memories seemed to overlap little by little. Meanwhile, all of Shinjibiao's clones wore different expressions, but they all shared one final fate. They vanished one after another. After all, once the storm clouds and lightning disappeared, the very foundation supporting those clones was gone as well. Shinjibiao could only kneel there, trapped within the circle of ice puppets. At that moment, the only things left inside him were despair and confusion, no matter how he thought about it. He could not understand how everything had reversed so completely in the blink of an eye. Looking down at him from above, Sha Fengliao said coldly, "This war ends now." But just then, the Thunder Dragon suddenly let out a pained roar. The device around its neck had activated again and was trying to force it back under control. The Thunder Dragon struggled in agony, twisting wildly, while Shinjibiao screamed for it to block Sha Fengliao. Sha Fengliao's gaze turned icy in an instant. Gita was a companion who had grown up with him. Man and dragon had shared many beautiful years together. Back then, Sha Fengliao had even liked teasing it, ordering it around like a dog, and telling it to fetch things for him. Every time he did that, Gita would shake its head so hard it looked like a rattling toy drum, refusing outright. The younger Sha Fengliao really had been pretty mischievous, so in the end he was always the one who had to give in. After all, Gita was one of his most important companions, even if Gita still held a tiny grudge over being bossed around like that. The scene snapped back to the present. The lightning in the sky had already faded, and Shinjibiao's energy was almost drained. By all logic, there should have been nowhere left for him to run. But there was no way Shinjibiao was going to accept his fate that easily. He knew Gita's speed stat was close to 10,000 help. If he escaped on Gita's back, Sha Fengliao might not be able to catch him in time. He clenched the remote trigger in his hand and screamed at Gita, "Take him out of here now! Otherwise, he'll blow you up on the spot." Gita immediately let out another agonized cry, and the pain was so intense that tears were forced out. Sha Fengliao's fury exploded on the spot. That bastard Shinjibiao had actually installed an internal detonation device on Gita. Shinjibiao kept cursing wildly out loud, but inside, he was already terrified beyond belief. "Move, damn it! Get up in the air!" Seeing Shinjibiao about to escape on Gita's back, Baoli panicked too and shouted, "Hey! Take him with you." But Shinjibiao was only thinking about saving his own life now. He had absolutely no interest in whether Baoli lived or died. With a sharp burst of motion, the Thunder Dragon Gita shot straight into the sky. As the distance between him and Sha Fengliao grew larger and larger, Shinjibiao finally let out a breath of relief and even started acting smug again. "Just a bunch of trash demons. He's not dying here. This trip was worth it. He got out alive and even took the demon essence." Wei Ming frowned in confusion. By all rights, with the speed Sha Fengliao had shown just now, he should have been able to catch up. And yet Sha Fengliao had not moved at all. Kuo Wujun saw the problem immediately. He felt Sha Fengliao had to be worried about whatever had been planted on Gita's body, and Sha Fengliao himself was not handling it well either. He was grinding his teeth so hard they almost shattered. Was he really supposed to just watch Shinjibiao get away? He had overwhelming strength, the kind of power that could crush everything in front of him. And yet all he could do now was watch that bastard leave in broad daylight. But then, all of a sudden, a voice echoed in Sha Fengliao's mind. "Gita believes in you. If it's you, then don't hesitate." It was Gita's voice. At that very moment, Gita was carrying Shinjibiao higher and higher into the air. But Shinjibiao suddenly felt that something was off, and in the next second, Gita violently threw him high into the air. Then Gita opened wide, and Shinjibiao instantly started screaming in panic. "Ah! What are you doing? With a brutal crunch, Gita bit down hard on Shin Jibiao's waist. Shin Jibiao was shocked and furious all at once. Are you trying to die? In the next second, Gita twisted midair and dove straight toward the ground, almost as if saying to Sha Fengliao, now it's your turn. And Sha Fengliao had already taken his attack stance. His brows knotted so tightly, they looked carved in stone. He gripped the great blade with both hands and raised it high overhead. Shin Jibiao instantly understood that this time, he was truly finished. In total hysteria, he screamed, "Then don't blame him for making you self-destruct too!" With that roar, the self-destruct sequence activated at once, and the progress meter shot up at terrifying speed, reaching 90% almost immediately. Sha Fengliao's eyes sharpened in an instant, and the great blade in his hands was already drawn back behind him, ready to strike. The moment the self-destruct progress hit 99.5%, a blinding white flash tore through the air. In the very next second, the control device on Gita's body was completely shattered. With a thunderous crash, the Thunder Dragon Gita landed safely on the ground, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. Wu Wujun and the others could only watch in silence, completely unable to understand what had just happened. Even Baoli was so shaken that he began stammering, his lips trembling as he failed to force out a full sentence. Then, as the dust slowly cleared, Sha Fengliao's figure came into view step by step. Shin Jibiao, meanwhile, had already collapsed to the ground, coughing up blood in a state of utter ruin. At that moment, the entire battlefield was filled with nothing except Sha Fengliao's steady footsteps, slow and calm, yet crushingly oppressive. Shin Jibiao had finally broken for real. His voice shook as he begged, "Spare him. Why? Why do you have to wipe him out completely?" Sha Fengliao looked down at him coldly. "From the moment you betrayed him, you should have known this day would come." Shin Jibiao was completely stunned by that answer. Betrayed? What betrayal? Betrayed who? Only at that moment did the figure standing before him fully overlap with the Sha Fengliao buried in Shin Jibiao's memories. Sha Fengliao's voice was cold enough to freeze the air. "When you see Manhwa, make sure you kneel and apologize properly." Shin Jibiao's scalp went numb in shock. "It's you, Sha Fengliao." But before the last syllable even left his mouth, a streak of energy had already flashed across his body. Coup, rebellion, violating women, abusing prisoners, killing your own teammates. Every time Sha Fengliao named one of his crimes, another horrific slash tore across Shin Jibiao's body. In the blink of an eye, Shin Jibiao had been cut into chunks like tofu, and yet even that was still not the end. Sha Fengliao raised his weapon high again, his voice as cold as iron. "Stealing his gear, hurting Gita. Heartless. Faithless. No respect for anyone above or below you." In the next second, Shin Jibiao looked like a peach pit smashed apart from the inside, his entire body covered in spiderweb cracks. Even then, Sha Fengliao still did not stop. Another storm of merciless slashes came crashing down immediately after. Only when Shin Jibiao had been completely carved apart did this long overdue reckoning finally come to an end. That horrifying scene, enough to suffocate anyone who saw it, finally made Baoli understand Sha Fengliao's true identity. So, it really was true. This demon was their former captain, Sha Fengliao. He had never been a deserter. Now, with golden light swirling around his body, Sha Fengliao looked like a king returning from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. In the next second, the system notification rang out sharply. Successfully killed SO1 class human boss. Demon Race Guardian mission completed. History has shifted. Gained 2.2 million experience. Leveled up 4 times. Rank increased to A16. Advanced evolution state unlocked. The scene shifted, and a breathtaking beauty with impossibly long legs appeared in front of a glass chamber. Floating inside that transparent container was a man, and it was none other than Sha Fengliao. In a soft voice, the woman said, "Look, your weapon, your gear, even your dragon, they've all come back to your side, haven't they? Now there's only one thing left. Your woman." In peacetime, if Sha Fengliao ever stood on the opposite side of humanity, he would probably look like the kind of terrifying organ-harvesting cartel boss everyone wanted dead. But in wartime, he was also the kind of man who would risk his life for a complete stranger. At the same time, in a remote villa, deep in the human territories, an urgent report from the front line arrived. Squad 511 of the 21st Legion has been crushed. General Shin Jibiao has died in battle. After hearing that, the old man inside the villa only asked one calm question. "Is there a body?" The messenger lowered his head and answered quietly, "No, they couldn't bring one back." The old man gave a slight nod. "I see. Then prepare an empty coffin and give him a state funeral. Let the entire world know that Zhencheng's eldest son died gloriously on the battlefield." The moment he finished speaking, he sounded as if he had hooked something while fishing, and casually added, something bit. "Quick, help him reel it in. But what he never noticed was that behind him, a pair of hands was trembling uncontrollably. Their owner was a man covered in scars from head to toe, looking almost like some kind of modified human weapon. He was Xin Jibiao's younger brother, an SS-rank psychic mage. Hearing that person speak so casually about wiping out every demon in Yunguo made even the scarred man feel a chill in his chest. From the way he spoke, anyone listening might have mistaken him for a god. Not even Sha Fengliao would speak in that tone. Elsewhere, inside a magnificent castle, lay the royal palace of the demon nation Funguo. A minister below the throne spoke respectfully. The invitation for the Alliance Assembly arrived 3 days ago. Your Majesty, have you decided who will attend? The king let out a long sigh. For small nations like theirs, this so-called Alliance Assembly is nothing but a public humiliation. And yet, as members of the Alliance, they have no choice but to participate. Fungu can barely gather even a few A+ ranked demons now, and every one of them is precious talent. But that assembly is absurdly dangerous. Every time they send people to compete, only a handful ever come back alive. The envoy could only press again. Then, Your Majesty, have you chosen the representatives? The king clenched his teeth. Give them 2 more days. He'll think it over a little more. But before he could finish, he suddenly let out a miserable scream. Then a cold voice rang out. Why don't they make that decision for you? At the same time, in Yungu, Lu Bingyi also received an invitation to the Alliance Assembly. Even the envoy delivering it had not expected Yunguo to suffer such a brutal blow in just a matter of days. Although the war had ended, Yangguo's follow-up support troops still had not fully arrived, and Liu Bingyi herself was already covered in wounds. Even so, she still expressed gratitude first for Yangguo's support. The envoy respectfully said, Please rest well, Lady Liu, and let them know as soon as possible who will represent you at this year's Alliance Assembly. After all, this is the grandest event in all the demon race. Yunguo was now deep in the reconstruction phase after the war, and every corner of the country was gritting its teeth and working non-stop. Even 5-year-old children were helping however they could. As long as they still had even a little strength left, the passion to rebuild their homeland would keep shining from every one of them. By now, the child was already panting hard from exhaustion, sweat running down his face. Someone said with concern, Tiangxiao, take a break. General Qiang came to see you. Only then did everyone realize that Qiangdu Xiao was still alive. At the moment, he was wrapped in bandages from head to toe like a mummy. Looking at the scene, he gave a bitter smile. Who would have thought rebuilding Yundu would end up relying on a kid this young? Tiang Xiao immediately bowed to him with full sincerity. It's only right, and thank you for transplanting your other heart into my mother. Chengdu Xiao shook his head lightly. That heart had already stopped beating inside him after the explosion. It just happened to be compatible with your mother. Besides, this was a debt my worthless younger brother should have paid in the first place. There are good and bad people among humans, and there are good and bad demons too. Those who do evil will always meet their retribution. As he said that, his gaze fell on Baoli in the distance. Baoli had already been scared out of his mind. Kneeling on the ground, he begged over and over, Please, let him go. He'll never come back to demon territory again. It was obvious he had been frightened stupid. He was still dreaming about having a future. In the next second, several demonic beasts slowly approached him. Baoli staggered backward in terror, screaming non-stop, No! Don't! Please don't! But moments later, those beasts tore him apart on the spot. Watching that, Chengdu Xiao said in a low voice, Only those who do good deserve a good end. That's the creed of the Cheng clan Mei. Younger brother broke that creed while he lived, so dying shouldn't matter. But the truth isn't that simple. Hearing that, Tiang Xiao spoke with surprising seriousness. Your brother really was terrifying before. Those words made Chengdu Xiao freeze. But when the humans suddenly stormed into the city, even though he had just come out of surgery, he still forced himself back to his feet. He shouted at me then, Brat, take your mother and run. Don't let my heart go to waste for nothing. But in the end, we still ran into that human commander. At that moment, he shoved me and my mother behind him and said, Kid, protect your mom and move. I'll hold this bastard off myself. Your brother died protecting my mother and me. He was our savior. Hearing that, Chengdu Xiao went completely still, his voice trembling. Is that so? So that brat really did grow up. It was me, as his older brother, who never truly understood him. In the next second, tears came pouring out of Chengdu Xiao's eyes. You little idiot, you really were the same as always. At the same time, Sha Fengliao stood quietly atop Gita's head, gazing into the distance as the wind blew around him. To Yunguo, the demon essence had been the most important national guardian energy source for the past 200 years. Someone tried to persuade him in a solemn voice. And you are currently our strongest demon, the last hope of the demon race. This decision was made unanimously by the 3 demon generals, and the Demon Sovereign. This demon essence can only be entrusted to General SHA. It can not only help you advance to S rank, but also grant you extremely powerful abilities. Maybe even. But before the speaker could finish, Sha Fengliao cut him off directly. Save it. Rather than wasting such a massive energy source on him, it'd be better used rebuilding your Yongguo. Then, in a calm voice, Sha Fengliao added, "He's preparing to leave Yongguo." The moment Wei Ming heard that, he shot to his feet in shock. What? You're kidding, right? After everything that just happened? Sha Fengliao looked helpless too. If this kept going, there might really come a day when no one in the world could kill him anymore. He had to find a way to turn back into a human as soon as possible. So much had already happened on the human side. What was Nana doing now? Was she safe? In the end, he was still human, while the people around him were demons. Every time those familiar faces came to mind, Sha Fengliao felt even more strongly that he could not keep getting entangled with them, and he definitely could not allow himself to grow too attached. Besides, the fact that he had to be killed by someone else in order to return to being human was something these demons would never understand, let alone help him with. But just then, a voice comforted him. "Relax. Nana's safe for now, and I'll stay with you too." Sha Fengliao finally let out a bitter smile. "Good thing I still have you. So, have you figured out where we're going next?" The moment Gita spread its wings to take off, Wei Ming panicked. "General Sha, where are you going?" Huo Wujun could not believe it. The hero who had saved all of Yongguo had a human soul inside him. That left Huo Wujun torn between admiration and hatred. Part of him wanted to kill Sha Fengliao on the spot, yet he knew perfectly well that he could not, so no matter what, he had to uncover Sha Fengliao's true identity. Sitting by the bed, Huo Wujun spoke with a trace of restrained sadness in his eyes. Did they say when the replacement prosthetic would arrive? Huo, and was lying quietly in the hospital bed and answered in a low voice. That's the third time you've asked me that today. And something bothering you? Huo Wujun fell silent for a moment before finally answering, "It's about him." A father understood his son best, and Huo immediately caught the meaning behind those words. Huo Wujun stood up, pulling on his cloak. "Dad, get some rest." Thinking back on it now, from the very first time he saw Sha Fengliao in court, all the way to everything that happened in the demon cavern, Huo Wujun finally realized it. That man had never really been a demon at all. At that thought, Huo Wujun bit down hard, only feeling more and more disgusted by how foolish he had been. That man was a hateful human, one who had been trying to die all along. At the same time, Sha Fengliao sat alone on a massive boulder deep in the forest, lost in thought. Then that same voice spoke by his ear again. "The only way for you to become human again is to be killed by someone else. Suicide won't work, and there's no other method." Sha Fengliao let out a helpless sigh. See? No matter how many times he asks, it's always the same answer. And with the level of regeneration he has now, even trying to kill himself would probably fail. If he could find a demon king above S rank, maybe some special skill could one-shot him. But the only time he ever saw a demon king at that level was in that demon tower, and he's never run into one again since. Come on, help him think. Is there any other way to get him killed faster? The voice sounded completely speechless. What you're saying makes sense, sure, but I'm still your contracted beast. Asking me to help figure out how you can die just feels really weird. Just then, the massive rock above Sha Fengliao suddenly came loose, ready to crash straight down on him. In that instant, a tiny spark of hope lit up inside him again. But in the very next second, Gita smashed the boulder to pieces with one sweep of its tail. Sha Fengliao instantly cursed at it in frustration. Gita only looked wrongfully accused. Sorry. The moment it senses danger, it reacts on instinct. Grinding his teeth, Sha Fengliao said, "No. You need to control that. Stop protecting me on reflex. Next time, throw me straight into danger instead." Gita obediently nodded. "It'll remember. You're trying to get yourself killed, right?" But the moment it said that, a monster lunged straight at Sha Fengliao. In the next instant, a beam of energy punched straight through the monster's body. Gita had acted first again, then awkwardly added, "Sorry, it'll work on that." Night fell quickly, and Sha Fengliao casually roasted an entire giant leg for dinner. The meal left him completely stuffed. He even let out a full burp before turning to Gita. "You should head back and recharge too." As the weapon's original ability, Dimensional Space, activated, a rip in space opened across the sky. Looking at the crack in the air, Sha Fengliao said quietly, "Once morning comes, they'll head west and try to find the demon tower. Maybe there's more than one out there." After Gita went in, the spatial rift began closing again. But that voice could not help complaining. That target is ridiculously vague. At the same time, the weapon released its original form and broke back down into a small cube. The voice continued, "Setting aside whether there's even a demon tower in the west, even if there is, There's no guarantee it holds an S-rank demon king. Sha Fengliao let out a helpless sigh. What else can he do? He can't think of anywhere else to go. But right then, he suddenly sensed someone approaching. A voice came from behind him. Leaving without even saying goodbye? That's pretty rude. It was Huo Wu Jun. As he spoke, he had already leveled the weapon across Sha Fengliao's throat. The whole of Yongguo is throwing a victory celebration right now. So why is the greatest hero of the war the first one trying to leave? Sha Fengliao, however, stayed completely calm. He simply asked, "Then why aren't you drinking at the celebration? Why come after me instead?" Huo Wu Jun stared straight at him. "Tell me who you really are. And what exactly was your purpose in coming to Yongguo?" Gita was not visible, but it could still sense Huo Wu Jun's emotions clearly. He was angry, but there was no killing intent. Huo Wu Jun pressed on. "What exactly is your connection to those humans? Why do you know so much about them? And why does the Thunder Dragon follow you? Why did the weapon fly back into your hand? And you?" At that point, Huo Wu Jun practically sounded like a walking list of questions. Sha Fengliao fell silent for a moment, then finally gave him the answer in an even voice. "Because I'm human." Huo Wu Jun had suspected it already, but hearing Sha Fengliao admit it with his own mouth still hit him like a bolt of lightning. He froze where he stood. Sha Fengliao casually pushed Huo Wu Jun's blade away from his throat, his voice so calm, it almost sounded cruel. "Too bad. You still can't kill him right now. Otherwise, dying by your hand wouldn't be so bad." Huo Wu Jun instantly lost control of his emotions. "So it's true. You've been trying to die this whole time. Ever since you provoked my father, ever since you jumped down alone during that human battle in the demon cavern, from beginning to end, you've been looking for death." As he said that, Huo Wu Jun suddenly grabbed Sha Fengliao by the throat, his voice trembling. "Why? Why the hell are you doing this?" Sha Fengliao did not struggle. He only answered in a level voice. Because the only way for him to become human again is to die. He was human from the start. He just ended up trapped inside this demon body. Only if someone else kills him can he go back. Huo Wu Jun's breathing immediately turned ragged. "Then why did you kill that human commander? With his strength, he could have killed you, couldn't he? You didn't have to save us at all, right? You could have just waited for him to wipe us all out and then let him kill you. Wouldn't that have sent you back? The human army would have won, and you could have gone back to being human too. You had no reason to stand on the demon side at all, did you, Sha Fengliao?" Sha Fengliao looked straight at him and gave only one answer. "It has nothing to do with sides, Dottie. It has everything to do with conviction." He couldn't stand by and watch something that blatantly evil continue. Hearing that, Huo Wu Jun's hand slowly loosened. He said in a low voice, "But all this time, it's been humans invading our land and leaving our people drowning in blood. Humans killed my mother too. That's why I hate humans. I think humans should die, and you should die too. But at the same time, I still wish you really were a demon." Off to the side, Gita quietly suggested that it could tell Huo Wu Jun was hurting badly right now, and that Sha Fengliao should probably comfort him a little. But there was no way Sha Fengliao was listening to advice like that. He simply walked right past Huo Wu Jun without expression. Gita could not help asking, "You're really just leaving like that? You're not going to say anything to him?" Sha Fengliao replied flatly, "He shouldn't get tied to any demon. They can't be friends." But just then, Huo Wu Jun suddenly spoke up. "1 week from now, the Alliance Assembly begins." Those words stopped Sha Fengliao in his tracks. Huo Wu Jun continued, "It's the most important gathering among the 18 demon nations. At its core, it's also a combat tournament. Every nation has to send 2 demons to compete. Then, almost every top powerhouse in the demon race will be there, including plenty of S-rank demons." The moment Sha Fengliao heard that, his eyes lit up on the spot. Even Gita sounded amused. "If you really want to get yourself killed, that honestly sounds like a pretty great chance." Huo Wu Jun added in a calmer tone, "You may not have any real opponents left in Yongguo, but don't underestimate the demon race as a whole." Sha Fengliao immediately asked, "Can people die in that tournament?" Huo Wu Jun nodded without hesitation. "Of course. Everyone who steps into that arena does it ready to die for their country." Sha Fengliao studied Huo Wu Jun's face and found his expression unusually sincere. He was clearly not lying. Huo Wu Jun went on, "Yongguo doesn't have anyone else willing to go die anymore. So in the end, the Demon Sovereign could only agree to send the 2 of us to represent Yongguo. I can even help you plan out your suicide mission, but the king of the demon race can't die by someone else's hand. The final blow has to be mine." At that, a sly grin immediately spread across Sha Fengliao's face, and he grabbed Huo Wu Jun's hand. "Deal." As for the Demon Alliance itself, it was a united empire made up of 18 demon nations, large and small. Rumor had it that all mysterious power in the world came from 10 hidden regions, and the demon race currently controlled the second region. The Alliance Assembly was held for 2 main reasons. First, it gathered the rulers of every nation for a joint council to discuss future strategy and keep what remained of demonkind united. The Alliance Assembly had another core purpose as well, choosing the next leader of the Demon Alliance. And the method of selection was the combat tournament held once every 3 years. In a world where might ruled above all else, that was considered the fairest system. Only the nation that claimed final victory earned the right to lead the entire demon race. But by now, the whole event had long since turned into a stage for the great powers to flex their strength. The so-called alliance of 18 nations had already become a nest of mutual scheming, with everyone chasing their own interests. Whatever unity and peace once existed were long gone. To seize the ultimate victory, every nation was willing to go to extremes and send out its most brutal, most powerful demon generals. At that moment, Liu Bingyi's mood was clearly LOW.A, someone from a weaker nation. She could barely see any hope at all. There were 36 participants in the last tournament, she said quietly. Only 5 made it back alive. And this year, the 3 major powers, Yangguo, Yuguo, and Liguo, will definitely be sending true S-rank fighters. In the past, every warrior my father sent out died there. If you want to back out now, it's still not too late. I can withdraw both of your names and say the participants fell ill. But before she could even finish, Sha Fengliao and Huo Wujun had already vanished from sight. That left Liu Bingyi standing there in complete disbelief. Meanwhile, Sha Fengliao had already arrived inside Yangguo's territory. Looking at everything around him, he could not help muttering, "So this is Yangguo. In his previous life, he never even got the chance to see it once. He thought it would just be some barren wasteland. Who would have guessed it'd be this prosperous? Compared to this place, Yangguo's capital looks like some tiny county town." Liu Bingyi soon caught up as well. Looking at the city before them, she said with a sigh of amazement, "This is Baidi, the capital of Yangguo. I haven't been here in years, and I never expected it to change this much. They should get the lodging arranged first. There's also a reception tonight." The problem was that the two of them had been following right behind her just moments ago. And yet, while she was still talking, those two were gone again. Liu Bingyi was practically on the verge of snapping. "Hey, you two!" At that moment, Sha Fengliao was already crouched in front of a fruit stall, staring at the produce with open curiosity. There are actually so many fruits here he's never seen before. Huo Wujun, walking behind him, let out a cold snort. "Ignorant human. In the end, the one who kills you will be me." After saying that, Huo Wujun turned and walked straight into a nearby weapon shop. Meanwhile, Sha Fengliao kept staring at one round melon in particular, his eyes widening. This kind of green-striped melon? He's only ever seen it in books. Isn't this one of those legendary fruits? The stall owner immediately laughed. "You're from out of town, huh? Makes sense if you've never seen a premium fruit like this before. It's called watermelon. Want to try some? These were grown in demon fields. Eat one, and it restores stamina instantly." Elsewhere, Huo Wujun looked over the dazzling array of weapons in the shop and fell into silence. Nearly every weapon on display was A+ rank. In Yangguo, a weapon at that level would normally need to be developed in a special classified armory. There was no way they could ever be mass-produced and casually sold in a roadside store like this. The shop owner wore a signature smile and immediately guessed where Huo Wujun came from. "From Yangguo, huh? Well, that can't be helped. Your Yangguo was never going to compare to our mighty Yangguo. Whether it's national strength, resources, economy, or territory, Yangguo surpasses Yangguo in every category. You here to watch the tournament?" Huo Wujun bared his teeth in a grin, sharp light flickering in his eyes. "No, I'm here to compete." At that moment, a young woman with an overbearing presence was also browsing weapons inside the shop. She was Xiangling, one of Yuguo's contestants. She gave Huo Wujun a dismissive glance and sneered. "That skinny build, not even advanced yet. Looks like Yangguo really is short on talent." The veins on Huo Wujun's forehead instantly bulged. Xiangling, however, simply waved a hand and said to the shopkeeper, "Wrap up these S-rank weapons for me and send them all to the Shambhala Hotel." Someone nearby immediately laughed and joined in. "Haha, isn't Yangguo always like this? Who knows? You might even run into each other in the tournament." Xiangling answered with a fake smile. "Huh. Our real opponents were never nobodies from weak little countries." Huo Wujun was no fool. He could clearly feel how absurdly strong Xiangling's demonic power was. That pressure? Was it already S-rank? Meanwhile, on the other side, Liu Bingyi had not expected that simply staying at an ordinary hotel would still get her harassed by random nobodies, to the point that she was nearly robbed in broad daylight right outside the entrance. This was obviously Yangguo's way of giving her a warning shot. Just a moment ago, Huo Wujun had been complaining about how everyone here acted like they owned the world, but Liu Bingyi thought it was perfectly normal. The Alliance Assembly was about to begin. Who would bother showing kindness to a possible opponent? Besides, the alliance of 18 nations was no longer what it had once been. Back then, the nations had been closer in strength and could still keep each other in check. But now, the only ones with real power and real influence were Yangguo, Yuguo, and Liguo. For the past several decades, the champions had almost rotated exclusively among those three nations. The strong only grew stronger. That was simply the cruelest rule of all. One of the most tempting rules of the Alliance Assembly was that the final champion would obtain the Key of Ascension, the fastest route for a demon to evolve into S rank. On top of that, the leader of the winning nation would become commander of the United Army of the 18 nations, gain full authority over the Alliance forces, and take control of the Terminus Elixir. In other words, the victorious nation would gain more S-rank fighters, more overwhelming firepower, authority over the Alliance army, and even mining rights to that place. Hearing that, even Sha Fengliao paused for a second. That place? The three of them soon arrived in front of a skyscraper that stretched straight into the clouds. It was one of the tallest buildings in all demon territory. Just then, a somewhat cautious voice came from behind them. Excuse me, is this the Shambhala Hotel? Xiangling immediately frowned in disgust. Why is it always you country bumpkins who come here just to gawk? Huo Wujun finally snapped and gritted out. Lady Liu, I can't take this anymore. Can we kill her? Liu Bingyi immediately stopped him in a low voice. Calm down. If she's deliberately provoking trouble before the tournament, then you're walking right into it. If violent conflict breaks out before the competition and someone reports it, you'll lose your qualification on the spot. Sha Fengliao, on the other hand, was on a completely different wavelength. He walked right up with the confidence of a total extrovert and said warmly, Yep, this is the Shambhala Hotel. You here for the Alliance Assembly too? The other person quickly nodded. Yes, we're from Wuguo. But in the very next second, Sha Fengliao suddenly leaned in and said with complete sincerity, If we run into each other in the tournament, please don't hold back. Kill me. The other person froze on the spot. I'll do my best. Liu Bingyi could only feel a headache coming on. Bringing these two out together was exhausting. In the end, she forcibly dragged the conversation back. Let's just get checked in first. But in the very next second, the girl let out a sharp scream. My bag! Our invitation and check-in documents were all inside. The moment Sha Fengliao saw what was happening, his goofy side kicked in again. An invisible mugger, huh? Lockie instantly blew up in rage. What kind of scumbag goes after my sister? As he said that, he shut his eyes, clearly preparing to use some kind of secret technique. Rings of energy immediately spread out around him. It was actually a domain-like detection skill. As long as something was within his sensing range, there was nowhere for it to hide. In the next second, he snapped his eyes open, clearly having found the target. He spread his fingers wide. Right after that, an ice spike shot through the air. The thief's invisibility was broken on the spot. The thief was instantly horrified, unable to understand how he had been found. But before he could react, several flower petals had already appeared quietly above his head. Huo Wujun looked at him with a dark expression and said coldly, Punishing evil doesn't count as violence, right? The thief broke down crying on the spot, his voice shaking. I'm actually a contestant from Duo Go 2. I'll give everything back. Just please don't hand me over to the guards, okay? Meanwhile, Sha Fengliao still had that blank, harmless look on his face as he remarked, Your brother's pretty good. The girl nodded quickly and said gratefully, Thank you so much. Otherwise, we would have been in serious trouble. He's always been really good. Sha Fengliao casually asked, Does your country have any S-rank demons? The girl shook her head. No, Wuguo has never produced an S-rank demon, but my brother will work hard. It turned out the boy's name was Lockie, a cloud element archer from Wuguo. As for the unlucky thief, Huo Wujun beat him flat while the man kept begging them not to call the guards. After venting his anger, Huo Wujun finally felt a little better, and the group quickly entered the hotel lobby. What they did not realize, though, was that someone upstairs was already watching them in secret. Liu Bingyi quickly took out their documents. Upstairs, that man calmly sipped his coffee and sneered under his breath. The show's about to start. Clearly, he was planning nothing good. Liu Bingyi glanced at the clock on the wall, then at the long line in front of them, and frowned. But at this rate, they might not make it to tonight's banquet on time. Sha Fengliao, on the other hand, looked completely unconcerned, like none of this had anything to do with him. He even muttered under his breath, Did these people not know how to let the disabled go first? Just when it was almost their turn, Liu Bingyi took the initiative and said, Let Lakey's group check in first. That way his sister can get upstairs and rest sooner. The girl instantly looked overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you so much. But the receptionist's attitude was unbelievably bad. With open impatience, she snapped, Documents? Have them ready ahead of time, okay? Don't waste everyone's time. The moment Liu Bingyi handed over the papers, the receptionist rolled her eyes even harder. Not that. The invitation letter. The invitation letter. What the hell is the point of showing only your own national ID documents? But right then, a dark figure suddenly appeared at the entrance. The entire lobby erupted at once. Oh, it's him! Look! I've only ever seen him in the news before.